Welcome to Fear Coded, a podcast where we talk about media from the horror genre and take a queer reading of a single book, video game, film, podcast, or TV show and explore just how queer horror can be. And in the continuation of Excommunicapril, our month dedicated to religious horror, we certainly hope to turn some heads as we delve into the legendary 1973 horror film The Exorcist, directed by William Friedkin and adapted for the screen by William Peter Blatty, based on his own novel. I'm David.
I'm Marilee.
I'm Tyler.
And I'm Alyssa.
Listeners, that's not a demonic incursion from a Ouija board. It's our friend Alyssa. Alyssa, welcome to Fear Coded.
Woo!
Can you listen? You are not a new voice for probably a lot of folks who are interested in podcasts in the horror space. So can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and where they might know you from?
So I'm Alyssa, and I am the co-host of the podcast The Silver Scream, where we try to find a good werewolf movie and fail more often than we succeed. I'm also a librarian and book nerd, which does come to play in this episode. So.
Fabulous. We
love librarians.
We do love librarians. But I was teasing Alyssa a little bit before we started to push record, because I was like, oh my gosh, The Exorcist, is there like a hidden werewolf take that we can expect here? But you know what? If there is, we should actually really be doing that on Silver Scream. We shouldn't be doing it here. We should come to you.
That's really why we haven't talked about werewolves, and not, as Alyssa pointed out, the lack of really good werewolf movies.
Oh God.
Well,
They're
listen,
so
we
bad.
did talk about one of the great werewolf movies that we didn't like it very much.
That's true. You liked it, Marilee. You know what? I was bringing us down. But I think it's also, we've proven very recently, I might add, that we'll cover bad movies. I think last week's experience with Sister Irene in The Nun has given me faith that we never need to hold quality as a standard for a thing to be considered for this podcast.
I can't believe you just did 2 puns in one diatribe.
I didn't even mean to do the second one. It was just accidental.
Oh, but the way you said it, it's like you saw it ahead of you, and then you're like, yeah, I'll step in that pun puddle.
Yeah. I'm gonna do it.
I saw that fork in the road, and I went and I picked it up.
You know, I often see 2 paths in a wood, and I take the one that leads me to, ask my friends and co-hosts what things are going on in their lives. So before we air condition a duplicate of our bedrooms to negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit, I want to check in with my co-host and our guest to see how things are going for them in a landscape of horrors that our real world has to offer. What is making y'all scared, or what's making you feel prepared? Alyssa, as our guest, let's start with you.
Can I do one of each?
We make up the rules.
Fun
So yeah,
extra.
you absolutely can.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So the thing that's making me scared right now is I have developed a crush on a new friend.
Alyssa.
I know.
Drama.
The tea right away.
We met on Twitter.
Okay.
And we live in the same city. We both write fan fiction for the same fandom. We're both in education. We're both queer bitches who can't drive.
I love it.
So I'm like, what is stopping us
the
from
best
getting
sexuality?
married? I don't know.
Nothing.
Alyssa,
I mean,
you're
maybe
putting yourself like on the clock to confess to this person. So
Yeah.
Are you going to tell this person that you were on this podcast?
I don't know. I don't know yet.
Wow. Wow.
I've known you for like 2 minutes, and I'm like, this person, amazing, love them.
Your stock couldn't go higher.
Yeah.
Truly.
No, I told you guys you'd love Alyssa. I told you, and I'm so glad that this is happening. But also Alyssa. Oh my God.
Yeah.
We're gonna go buy cowboy hats together. It feels very good. I live in Texas, by the way.
Wow. We'll have to talk Texas later. Also, this is wonderful. This is incredible. It's giving me joy and happiness and heart. I really desperately love that this crush has developed. And I think more people, you know what? There's a barren wasteland of social media all around us. It's filled with bile and excrement. And I think that if you find joy and love and light, it makes it even more exciting to celebrate. And look at, I think that's cool.
Especially with all the shit going on. Like, I'm really happy to hear about this.
Yeah.
So,
Me
okay,
too.
what's the other side of your coin then, Alyssa?
Okay.
What's balancing this?
So I'm feeling prepared because, it's weird that I feel prepared for this, but my first Scholastic Book Fair as a librarian is coming up.
Wow.
And I'm
Wow.
feeling ready. I'm ready. I'm ready to sell some Dogman books to children because that's
Hell
all
yeah.
they're gonna buy is Dogman books.
I don't even know what that means, but I love it.
Dogman is like a popular. It's by the guy who wrote Captain Underpants. It's this generation's
Oh,
Captain Underpants.
okay.
The movie.
Thank you.
The movie
Thank you.
Yeah.
like came out recently. Okay.
Oh, of Dogman?
Dogman.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Dog
The
Man.
Dog
saying
and
the same
Man.
But
thing.
not
Now, should
werewolf.
Is that a werewolf
Not werewolf.
movie? I don't know.
Okay, see,
Should I
this is-
review Dog
that's
Man
what
on
I
my
was.
podcast?
That's what I
Why
was
That
not?
might be
asking.
the only good werewolf movie that you could find. Is it good?
Wow.
That's sleeping on The Werewolf of London, which is the first werewolf movie.
You know
from,
what?
like, the
That is
1930s.
so
I wanna
true.
see
movie
that.
sucks. It's so good.
I want to see it. I want to see it. They won't let me. They won't let me, Alyssa.
Ah,
No, I have no
Hurtful.
control.
We haven't had a chance yet.
I'm so.
I get to be at the mic for 2 hours a week, and then they lock me back in my little cage, and then let me back out once a week to record another podcast. I get no say or no control. This is a red flag central here.
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Hurtful.
Alyssa, let me tell you, I adore and treasure you, but I do feel like you have such a unique experience with the world that, like, finding a crush made you scared, and preparing for a very stressful in-person event makes you feel prepared. What a way to look at life. What a way to look at life.
Mama,
The
that's a
unknowns of love
librarian.
and the certainty of
That
making
is-
money.
That is a librarian. Wow. Incredible. I look forward to updates on both of these things,
Yes.
Alyssa, so that we can track you. How many scholastic opportunities were created with these children, and how much is to come from this crush?
Yes.
David,
All right, well,
tell us.
Me? You
Yes,
want-
I'm calling
you.
you out now.
Oh my
I must
gosh,
know.
Wow.
Are you feeling
Just
prepared or
dominating the
scared?
microphone. I'm feeling prepared. I was gonna say scared because I'm a little tired today, and it's been a busy podcast weekend. But I guess I'm feeling prepared because I've spent a lot of time over really just the past week getting ready and amping myself up and feeling like I've got what I need, getting my pieces arranged so that I can resume the Are You My Mother podcast,
Which is so
which
good.
is going to be
Which everybody should listen to.
It's going to be coming back right near Mother's Day in early May. We're gonna release episodes starting on May 2nd. Really fantastic. I had an opportunity to do some recordings with folks already to get that back going. It took a little bit longer of a hiatus than I had originally intended. Haven't released a new episode since December, so it's been really good getting back into the swing of things, talking about moms, and having some conversations about like whether or not they would support a queer kid if a queer kid needed that to be their fictional mom. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm really excited about the new season.
Good.
I am too. It's going to be so good,
Yeah.
David. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Like, I can't wait to see what you've got planned. I can't wait to see the whole spread. I can't wait to listen in. It is such a delight getting to hear you talk about like moms in pop culture. So
I know, moms.
remind us again,
Yeah.
what's the date that it's dropping? Mother's Day?
That's May. It's May. No, Mother's. So listen, I guess I'd rather you get in trouble going too early than too late. Mother's Day is May 4th. The podcast releases on Fridays, so the first drop will be May 2nd.
Ah, okay. Plus,
Yeah,
if you
I don't-
released it on May 4th, you'd be running into Distant Echoes, our Star Wars podcast here at Glitterjaw.
Right, where May the 4th they are of course doing the drag show.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're doing a drag show to benefit a charity that helps folks who are not maybe accepted or welcomed because of their gender identity, and they do great advocacy and great community work. And so good plug for that, Tyler. I love that.
Look at me. It's that synergy. That's what they call that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you
Consider-
scared or
yeah.
prepared, Tyler?
I am feeling prepared, and I'll tell you why.
Mhm.
Tell us why.
It's a silly reason.
I love
Because-
that.
The best.
Let me check the calendar. It's April. It's Excommunicapril. What a better way to celebrate Excommunicapril than get excited way too early for Halloween?
We're about halfway to Halloween, so like Shudder's doing their whole halfway to Halloween programming, and it's like a huge
Interesting.
deal. So like you're
Oh,
fine.
maybe it's something in the air. Something has changed within me. Something is not the same. I'm craving like some cinnamon, pumpkin. I want like the fall leaves. I want to feel like a nice, cool, refreshing breeze swath over me because it's already hitting 90 here in Florida. God, I can't
Oh,
wait
geez.
to
Yeah,
leave.
I was about to say 92 in Texas this afternoon.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is so hot for April. That is unbelievable, unacceptable.
Yeah, this year's gonna suck.
Oh god, I'm gonna die. I'm not going outside.
Ugh, God. Well, I am very excited. I was thinking about, like, I just had like a craving for like cinnamon and pumpkin-y things, and then that got me thinking about just like fall and Halloween in general. And Halloween is just like, it's so fun because it's like there's so many different ways to celebrate, like in terms of aesthetics and stuff. You can go like really scary or cutesy, or you can go like, I would really love to go like a whimsigoth direction.
A whimsigoth.
Whimsigoth.
is such a fun aesthetic.
So, David, you sound unfamiliar with whimsigoth.
Yeah, I think my facial expression was trying to also give that to you. So let me try that one again.
Oh, listeners, because this is also an audio medium, so if you couldn't see David's face there, let me go ahead and translate. He just did a big eyebrow like uptick, very Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson-esque.
Wow. Oh my God. So honored. So honored.
And yet you were befuddled.
I was, but I could be multiple things, much like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
So true. He's an actor. He wrestles.
So this whimsigoth, what is it?
So for any of our listeners that were children in the 90s and you had a cool mom, it was the vibe where everything was like crescent moons and stars and dark blue colors, wearing like a velvet, like crushed velvet dress that has like that pattern on it, buying like things that are just like covered in like lanterns or silks, drapery, anything that kind of gives off like astronomy, witch, earthy vibes. Like basically just practical magic. Like if you watch practical magic, you get the aesthetic of whimsigoth.
Okay.
And maybe that's the decor that I will do. I don't know why I said decor so weird, but that's decor.
Yeah,
that is kind of the vibe I want to go for this Halloween.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I also appreciated using practical magic, since Tyler and I were talking about something totally different. Brought up practical magic, and Tyler said, "Yes, I'll be your like flirty redhead," and I was like, "Which one was the redhead?" Thinking that he was comparing us to Diane Lane and Stockard Channing, and I just couldn't see their hair being red, forgetting completely that there is like a notorious redhead in that film in Nicole Kidman.
Yes.
Just totally, because Tyler was referencing us, I thought we were the old ladies, and that is
a natural,
where my mind immediately jumps to.
Assumption.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
But no, I'll be your like party girl, that girl, Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, she was bad. She was bad. Marilee, take us home. What is making you feel scared or prepared this week?
I am feeling scared, I fear.
Tell us why.
So this has got a little bit of a backstory, so please bear with me for like a minute and a half where I try to explain this to you. I use TikTok. Don't do it. It's so bad for my productivity. It's just the worst. But so the thing about TikTok is that it has an algorithm that people like to joke that it knows you better than you know yourself. And like some people will talk about how they've been diagnosed with ADHD via TikTok algorithm, and like there are lots of jokes on TikTok about the app clocking you, right? Like here's the thing. I have been diagnosed by TikTok as a Disney adult, and it really fucking bothers me because Disney's fine or whatever, but like I don't care. I don't go to the amusement parks. I don't Disney bound. I have done everything that I can to try and get off of this. I blocked people. I try to swipe away. Nothing works. I'm just always TikTok's being like, yeah, but you have a lot of feelings about the Disney parks, huh? Yeah, that's you. Never true. But here's the thing. At Universal right now, they are testing, like, it's like pre-opening. The launch is like in May. But they have the Epic Universe new park that's opened, and I hate this, but like I'm really into it, and like I'm scared because TikTok was right, and I do really like this theme park, and I don't want to be this person, especially because like I'm never gonna go. Because I'm not going to go to Florida, and if I do go to Florida, I'm not going to go to an amusement park that has a world specifically, about Harry Potter stuff, because, like, they have a whole area in the new park that's Harry Potter related, and, I'm not going to give, Joanne Rowling any fucking money anymore. But they have a dark universe area that's all about, like, the Universal monsters, and it looks so good, you guys, and it's really bumming me out.
So you're not, thankfully, you're not a Disney adult, you're a Universal adult.
Well, yeah, but my concern, because I share this with Marilee, is that the algorithm has labeled her a Disney adult, and that's the fear, Tyler. Marilee knows herself. She knows herself, but what does TikTok know? What does TikTok know that we haven't yet discovered about ourselves? And isn't that the true fear that we all must face? That we look into the mirror and see a distorted image of what we thought we were, but we are actually a Disney adult.
Yeah, and like they're right though. I am really interested in this park. I think it looks really cool. The tavern that everybody keeps going to looks fucking awesome. The food looks good. I don't care about theme park food. Why do I care about this theme park food? And like the characters that are walking around seem really cool. The animatronics seem incredible. There's a Victoria Frankenstein ride or whatever. I could have lived my whole life knowing none of this, and yet I now do, and it's a bummer.
I will say, Universal Studios is so fun. And they have my favorite roller coaster.
Universal Studios. I mean, here's the thing. Universal Studios. It is different than Disney. I know the algorithm has judged us. It is cool. There's some high production value. It's a good experience. I think that should you ever get the experience to go to California, maybe check it out. If they don't have the thing though, it's only in Florida.
I mean, it's only a matter of time before they put that in California, right?
Then just wait. It's only a matter of time until we get it in Europe. We get all this stuff eventually.
Universal they're opening up one in the UK.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's not technically Europe, but sure.
I'm aware. But it's accessible by boat for you.
In continent only. We don't count them anymore. They left. That was their choice. Oh, well, you know what? We're all here, you know? We are all here, whether we are judged by TikTok. We are all here, whether we have crushes on someone that we met online. We're all here, and we're ready, and we're going to dive in to talk. We're going to talk about something really exciting today. I think this is a great classic. And I love when we can dive into one that feels like home, because today we are talking about the 1973 film The Exorcist. This was inspired by a real exorcism of a boy in the 1940s in Maryland. William Peter Blatty's novel of the same name was originally not a huge hit until Blatty went on the Dick Cavett Show to promote his book. William Friedkin, the film's director, found the novel so engrossing that he finished the book in one go. The film had a difficult production, as Friedkin was notorious for being difficult with the crew and manipulative with the film's actors. Ellen Burstyn and Linda Blair went on to have chronic health problems due to injuries, and because of these and other difficulties, the film's production was thought to have been cursed.
The film is about the possession of Regan, it kind of goes back and forth, McNeil, a 12-year-old girl. After she begins to experience strange behavior and physical changes, her mother, Chris McNeil, seeks out medical answers to her problems, but science has no answer for her. Eventually, she reaches out to Father Damien Karras for help. Karras, whose mother dies during the film, struggles with his own faith and guilt. However, he is able to secure assistance from Father Lancaster Marin, who has a past with the demon possessing Regan. Eventually, Regan is freed from her possession, although not without a heavy cost.
Fueled by rumors of the film's cursed nature and overall blasphemous content, the film was incredibly successful. The film's time in theaters has its own eventful legacy, with audience members fainting and vomiting. Critics and audience called it the scariest movie that they had ever seen. Indeed, to this day, The Exorcist is commonly thought of as one of the most terrifying movies ever made. It's hard to avoid references to The Exorcist in horror, from movies to Halloween decorations, but why does The Exorcist have such a long-lasting legacy? And what can we learn about it through the lens of queer theory? Let's find out together. What's everybody's experience with The Exorcist? Alyssa, I know this is one of your favorite movies of all time. Let's start with you.
It really is. So my older sister showed this movie to me when I was 11 years old. She was babysitting me at her mom's house. It's weird as a teacher because I'll have students, I'm in an elementary school right now, but I've taught up to 8th grade. I'll have kids talk to me about the horror movies that they watch, and I'm like, you shouldn't watch that. But then I'm like, I was watching that at the same age, so I can't say anything. I've seen it so many times I can't count. When I found out later later in my life that it was a book before it was a movie, I immediately read it. I conned my dad into buying it for me by telling him I needed it for my AP Lit class.
Wow.
Amazing.
Because he would never buy me books, and my library didn't have it available at the time. Mm-hmm. So I needed it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I lied.
I love that.
I've read the book about 4 or 5 times. It's just stellar. I just finished my 4th or 5th reread last week.
Fabulous.
Yeah. We talked to Alyssa about maybe being on this episode a while ago, and it was really fun. Your first reaction was, "Oh, great! That means I have time to reread the book." and I already knew that we needed to have you on for this, but that just really solidified my need to have you here for this. You've also talked about this movie before on other podcasts, right?
Yes, once. I was on my good friend Caitlin Grant. She has a podcast called Plug It Up, which is about the monstrous feminine. And she started out by talking about monstrous motherhood, which I'll mention later. And I did an episode with her a few years ago about The Exorcist.
Fabulous.
What a great name for a podcast about that.
Yeah, we talked about it briefly on Carrie, our Carrie episode, which is where the name comes from. It's just a really great show.
Yes.
Okay, so for me, I know that I rented this in high school because I had on summers our Blockbuster, and I've now learned that this is like a limited experience or something I gaslight myself into remembering. But I swear this happened. We had sort of an unlimited classics program.
Ooh.
During the week, you could rent as many VHSs as you would like, but they had to be from the classics section, which I think was 10 years old or older. And so obviously The Exorcist fit it, and I was like, I'm going to go through the AFI 100 or whatever list I was using because I'm an art student. And I remember watching it and enjoying it. I'll ask this question later when we actually get into the plot beat by beat, but I feel like I have seen other versions of The Exorcist, probably a director's cut. All that was available to me, this one was to buy it from Apple TV, so I just watched whatever they had available to me. Probably the first cultural reference I saw to this would have been the possession of Marlena on Days of Our Lives.
What?
Because the soap opera Days of Our Lives had one of their main characters get possessed by the literal devil, and they dragged the storyline out for like 9 months.
Of course they did.
What?
And yeah, she levitates, she causes trouble, she unscrews bolts to cause chandeliers to fall. It's delightful.
That's
Love
incredible.
that.
That's so
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Marilee, what about you? What was your first experience with this film?
So speaking of different versions, I definitely watched this when I was a little too young also, because I was at my mom's. I remember I was maybe a freshman in high school, like maybe I was in middle school, maybe I could have been a sophomore, I don't know, I don't really remember that well. What I do remember is that I was watching a version that had Reagan crab walking down the stairs, and that was one of the single scariest things I've ever seen in my life. I was so glad that the version I watched, which was on Peacock, did not have that scene in it, because to this day, I just genuinely hate it so much.
Okay, so that was the thing that I was referencing, Mare, because that I was like, where was this? I have distinct memory of this.
It's bad.
Yeah, okay.
It's not good.
But
It's actually the 2000 version of the movie.
Okay. Well,
it's called the version you've never seen, has the crab walk scene in it.
Okay.
I
Well,
remember
fair
when
enough.
I remember when that came out because they showed that like on the Today Show. And because it was just news. It was like, hey, you thought The Exorcist was scary before? Check this out. And then it's just this 12-year-old crab walking down the stairs.
Yeah.
I remember that terrified me even as a little kid. I don't know why that's like so singular for like our generation, because it's so memorable in spite of having been in the version you've never seen.
Yeah, but that would totally make... Well, then I didn't get it from the classics. That's the part of my memory that doesn't work. If that's the one I saw in high school, because 2000 was when I was a senior and I was watching movies all the time.
You mean it could have still happened? It's just somebody at the Blockbuster just put the movie in the wrong area.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe. Oh yeah, maybe they were like, Exorcist, that's old.
Yeah.
And I got one over on them.
Right. Well, for me, I was forbidden to watch this movie, and so everyone else saw it when they were too young. I saw it when I was too old. But I watched
Too
it.
old.
So originally when I was writing out these notes, I was like, oh yeah, I must have seen it in college. But no, I remember now. I saw it at a scary movie party my senior year of high school. And The Exorcist, I was surprised to learn it's not really a movie that you should watch in like a big group of people.
No.
It's a
Good
surprisingly
for
like
that.
quiet, suspenseful film with bursts of like violence and terror until you get to like the very end. So it's not like I think like my interpretation was that it was. So we watched it and we weren't really scared and we were like, yeah, it was fine. But you could only hear like a third of it because we were all being annoying 18-year-olds. So we watched Poltergeist after that, and
That'll do it.
my best friend and overall friend of the show, Maureen, we were at her house, and her family had other like relatives living nearby, and I guess they found out that we were doing this scary movie night. So right at the part in Poltergeist where shit goes down for real at the end of the movie, all of a sudden there was banging on all the windows in the house, and I was on a love seat in the corner or a recliner in the corner with my legs up and everything. And then I had on both sides of my head people pounding on the windows. So I launched myself out of the recliner and onto the carpet a good maybe 4 feet away from the chair. And at first no one noticed. And then they were like, why is Tyler on the floor? And never lived that one down. So now I've just shared a very embarrassing moment for all of our listeners.
Wow.
That's insane.
Yeah.
This is wild. I'm really glad that they timed that better to make sure it was Poltergeist and not like a nice quiet moment with Father Karras.
Oh, it was
because
it was
that
perfect.
would not have had the
It
same
was
impact.
the best.
Yeah.
It was so memorable. Very memorable experience.
My only other thing that I'll say about my background is that when I first saw this, I would have still been considering going into psychiatry. And so I was also very interested in characters who were psychiatrists. And I remember thinking about Karras's sort of personality as a man of science and a man of faith. And that has only continued to percolate for me and become more well developed as I now have watched this film in my later adulthood. I famously did not become a psychiatrist because I cannot see the colors of the pills. And that is another one of those things you just can't do.
Well, hey, I mean, David can't sort pills, but he can listen to me talk about some themes. So everybody, let's discuss some themes for The Exorcist.
That's insane. That's insane work that you've just done.
It must be hot. It must be hot in Florida because that was a sweaty transition.
Listen, we're recording at an unusual time. I've just talked about how it's already hitting 90. I think we're all feeling a little loopy, so I'm sorry, Alyssa, this is your first experience with us. But, yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe I've been possessed. Quickly, we must talk about demonic possession. So,
let's talk about it.
So, our first theme of the day, demonic possession? No, hormones. The Exorcist is carried by Linda Blair's performance as Regan. She starts as a loving, empathetic child, but over time begins to misbehave and swear. This escalates to a physical transformation as her body begins to really rot due to this possession, to the point that she's even spewing, content warning for vomit, by the way, to the point of spewing green fluid onto people. However, one could argue that Regan's transformation and rebellion against patriarchal forces, such as the mostly male medical team and the priests involved in the exorcism, is a positive display of feminist and even queer resistance. Chris, Regan's mother, claims that she knows her daughter. She would be able to tell the difference between her and her identical twin, but the demon-possessed Regan is for sure not her daughter. This is a frequent refrain in coming out stories where the parents are not receptive to their queer child's identity. So what do you all kind of think about this theme? Alyssa, I really want to hear your thoughts on this.
So I've never really considered the queer themes of The Exorcist until I was asked to be on the show. And so when I watched it this last time, I kind of put on my little rainbow colored glasses. And I can see all of these themes, especially in terms of identity. And I also think that, in addition to talking about, queerness, it's also a really good representation for women and what women go through. And, I'm a cis woman, so that's all I can really speak to. But, as someone who menstruates, it ties into that monstrous menstruation trope. Because she's around that age. It's a really big focus in the book. And identity itself, both in terms of Regan's identity, Father Karras's identity, is a big theme in the book. And the difference between pre-possession Regan and post-possession Regan is so dangerous and so developed in the novel. And there's this line that really stuck with me that I put in my notes was, but Chris was fearful that her daughter was both repressing both anger and grief, and that one day the dam would break and her emotions would erupt in some unknowable and harmful form.
Yeah,
mood though.
Sounds like adolescence. I mean, that's I think this reading is so interesting because it honestly, gang, it's been a hot minute since we've talked about adolescence. And there was a while that I was getting tired of us talking about adolescence.
Well, we had a whole month on Janteen-uary, which is all about adolescence.
Too many teens.
31 days of teen.
It was frankly kind of nice to be back to it because this was such a light, it was a feather touch. And this quote that you pulled, Alyssa, from the book is that with spades on top of it, feather plus spades is a metaphor that doesn't work. But it's quite a keen way of thinking about how we sometimes look at the development and change of a young person. And I think young women, in particular girls, get seen as this changes the loss of innocence or the corruption. God, I really am channeling Carrie's mom here. But
they're all gonna laugh at you.
Seriously. So I don't know. It was really fun. But this one, I guess, because Regan's exposure is all surrounding her care, the harmful edge of the blade on this one is the idea that it is really everyone that she interacts with who isn't her mother, or the members of the household, is there to help her, but their help is all made out of systems that were made by and benefit men. And so then we have that challenge going on as well. It's really an interesting way of looking at this film, and the next time I watch this, I'll be a little bit more keen to think about that analysis.
Yeah. There's the great podcast that I love so much, You're Wrong About, did an episode about The Exorcist a couple years ago, and it was really fantastic. I really recommend everyone listens to it that's listening to this podcast. But they really did touch on that a bit, and especially the feminist angle, which is kind of why I wanted us to talk about this, because like there's a lot, I feel, to discuss about the feminist themes that are within this story that, let's be real, Blatty probably was not intending to include, because this was written in a rapidly becoming more conservative time. And I think it's fascinating to consider not just that, but then like those queer themes. And Alyssa, I really love this point that you bring up, and I really do love that quote so much, because I think it works on so many different levels. It's definitely like the feminist idea of like why my child is going from a girl to a woman, to the idea that Reagan could be becoming something that is, you know, somewhere in between. Like, I mean, if Reagan is possessed by a demon, is she still a girl? Is she the demon? Is it Reagan? So there's also a strange, I'll use the $50 word, liminal idea between identity here, and I think it's really fascinating, and I'm really excited to talk about it more, especially because Alyssa, I know you also brought up Karis is also struggling with this sense of identity, and that leads us into our next theme, which is stupid, sexy, brooding priests.
Stupid, sexy, brooding priests.
Father Damien Karis is defined by the struggle he has with his faith. From the very beginning to the hospitalization and loss of his mother, right to Reagan's bedroom, Karis suffers over what the truth is. What is the true nature of truth here? Is he doing what he was meant to do? Did he fail his mother? A lot of things going on also with like his actual like belief in God, which is extremely difficult for a priest because that is everything to them. That's what you must associate with being a priest. So these things motivate his every action in the film. As part of Excommunicable, we've seen 2 members of the clergy doubt themselves, and Karis is our third. If your vocation depends on faith, what happens when that faith is lost?
I just gotta say, I love this aspect of The Exorcist, and I think maybe on this viewing was the most excited I've been by it, but I think ever since the first time I popped this in the VHS player, this to me is the story. And I know part of that is that a man is never more attractive to me than when he's broken. And
Mood.
I could fix Father. I could fix Father Karis. I could fix him.
Like, that man's so full of trauma.
Oh my god.
Delicious.
And I could watch Jason Miller look pensive. Just that would be such a great screensaver. Like, that's what I should watch for like 5 minutes before I go to bed. Is just him staring off in the middle distance.
I love that.
Wondering like, did I make the right choices in my life to go for a life of poverty, which cost me all these things? Is God really worth it? Maybe God's not even real. Let's just take that collar right off, baby.
Oh, it's so good. I'm so with you on that. I don't know. This is like our red flag segment, it sounds like, because we all had a similar expression of like, I love a man that's broken and we can fix them. But yes, I totally agree with you. I think Jason Miller is wonderful in this film. He's an incredible, or he passed on some time ago. An incredible actor. He had a very long and prestigious career in theater. He actually wrote his own play, which I don't know if it was Friedkin. It might have been someone else. Maybe it was Blatty, for all I know, but they actually found Jason Miller while he was doing a play that he actually wrote himself, and then they brought him on, and he was interested. But we, unfortunately, because he mostly had a career on the stage, we don't have too many instances of him in film. So in another way, this isn't really related to the theme here, but I just feel like we have like these small moments of like real genius performance, and so it kind of makes that performance even richer just because there's so little of it really out there. Alyssa, what's your take on this theme?
It's my favorite theme in the movie and the book. There's like, in terms of brooding and looking pensive and Jason Miller being very statuesque, there's a specific scene that is lit where he's like kind of leaning back and he's falling asleep, and the way it's lit is all you can see is his face. It looks like a Vermeer painting, and it is just incandescent. It is beautiful. Like, this is just a well shot movie, so I could go on for hours.
It certainly is.
In the book, Karis's faith or lack of faith is the central focus, and I've read a lot about with William Peter Blatty talking about how to him Damien Karis is the main character.
Yeah.
And you can definitely see that he believes that he can't be the right person to help Reagan at first and for parts throughout because of his lack of faith. And I put a few different quotes throughout my notes,
and they're all
that
great.
Stuck out with me.
What bangers!
And just William Peter Blatty has bars. But he said he tucked the host inside his mouth and swallowed the paper taste of despair. And I was like, oh, that's poetry. Like,
Yeah.
I love a book. I love that book. And there's no better way to describe someone's like crisis of faith than taking communion and tasting despair.
Yeah.
So true. It's yeah. I think that's a wonderful line to call out. Marilee, please, I must know, what do you think of our stupid, sexy brooding priest?
I think that really works here. I think that knowing that Jason Miller doesn't do a lot of other movies is such a heartbreak to me, because he's so incredible in this film. And the way that he approaches Karis has such depth and emotion. It really, you can see the struggle that he has in like such a real and visceral way. I love it. I think that this whole thing is great, and you guys are so smart.
Well, I also love everything that we're talking about here today. That like we've talked about this at the start. The Exorcist is such a wonderful movie, but it's also a movie that it reminds me of the significance of looking at the cultural context behind a piece of art. Because all art is political. Like we've said this before, we will continue to say it from now until the end of time. And whether some people don't want to believe that, that's not fine, but whatever. The point is, we are in a time that is similar to the time period that The Exorcist takes place. So this theme is the more things change. Chris MacNeil is a single mother and actor. The only scene we witness, however, of Chris's movie is her performance as a college professor, demanding over a megaphone that protesting college students should affect change from within the system. In the US, the 1960s and 70s were times of great cultural change. The Exorcist, although initially seen as something rebellious due to its blasphemous content, actually enforces a more conservative social view of women and religion. Pauline Kael, in a contemporary review in The New Yorker, claimed it was the biggest recruiting poster the Catholic Church has had since the sunnier days of Going My Way and the Bells of St. Mary's. Everything returns to normal within the system by the end. Considering in 2025, we are experiencing our own struggle with the economic and socio-political forces that we would call the system, it's not hard to see how the themes from The Exorcist are present within society today.
Yeah.
Alyssa, I see in our notes here that you've got a little bit of call out for the most recent Exorcist movie because of this.
Yeah, because I think that because of the way that time is currently mirroring, this era, The Exorcist Believer could have been a really good fucking movie.
And that's the one that came out like last year, right?
Yes. And it could have been so good. It had a stellar cast, and because I'm a Leslie Odom Jr. fan first and a human second.
Of course.
As we all are. It's
so true.
I'm not immune to the whims of Hamilton. But, like, David Gordon Green is dog shit at telling good stories, so I just don't expect anything good out of him literally ever. And that's why it was such a letdown, because it could have told such a good story mirroring some of the problems that we're having nowadays. And how could a story from the 1970s transcend time to be found here? But he didn't do it.
Yeah.
Such a shame.
I mean, the attacks will always originate in higher education. The attacks from people who don't want you to think and breathe free thinking will always be in that. And there will always be the recruitment of those in power at systems of higher education to maintain the status quo, because they will benefit from that. I think that I'm sure I noticed this on first viewing. This again, I was going off the AFI list. I was very cultured, thank you. But I think it definitely felt different today, watching it and thinking about how pro-Palestine protesters have been had their rights removed, are being threatened to be deported if they are international students, are being met with a flurry of things. A close friend of mine and faculty member was denied tenure because he helped his students at a pro-Palestine protest. I think that it's very interesting that this is part of it. It was very. I think that beyond not seeing the crab walking scene, seeing this with the eyes of today was probably my biggest wow moment of this watch.
Yeah,
for sure.
You're so right.
I think it's also interesting too how like the ending of this movie is a little bit sinister. I think it, from what I understand from the book, because I have not read the book, but it is on my list, Alyssa, so don't at me in the comments.
I won't.
But I feel like the movie kind of goes a little bit further with this idea that, like, okay, everything is back to normal by the end. Karras sacrificed himself to save Reagan, which is a very Christ-like thing to do. And so he in a sense is redeemed for the struggles that he had with his faith, and maybe even letting himself get possessed by a demon. But that kind of is what's sinister, is that it means that, like, the church was right. the patriarchal system that we have set up with the medical team was right in a way, because they did advocate for the exorcism. And this is at a time period in 1973 where we've gone from the rebellion and protesting movement against Vietnam that we had, that led to a lot of very fascinating movies similar to this, such as Rosemary's Baby, which, spoiler alert for a very old movie, also has ends up having like kind of a more of a gray sort of ending, or bittersweet, even bad, some might call it. And everything gets tidied up with a neat little bow. There's no lingering shot of some sort of sinister influence in the world still. Like, we don't close on an image of the demon or Babylonian divine figure that was possessing Reagan. Like, we don't have anything like that. So it's kind of confirming, like, okay, actually the structure that we have in place, all of that is okay. Don't be afraid. The people in charge have things taken care of. So it is kind of like, it's difficult to see that, because then it also returns Reagan to her normal childlike self. But I don't know. It's she does kiss the priest, which I read as her actually knowing more than she lets on. I think maybe it could also be interpreted as like there's some part of her that is just like, well, I need to kiss this priest on the cheek, which is, well, nowadays. But yeah, I think it's a wonderful film, but I think it's also important that we recognize these aspects that could be interpreted in the film.
Yeah. Well, it's time to evaluate the film on some basic criteria that we run every piece of media that we talk about through. So let's start by looking at 1973's The Exorcist and asking this question: is it horror?
Yes. Yeah. I feel like this is a definitive yes, and we can move on. Except for both, because you both have really good points.
Well, it's something that I wanted to bring up though. So I watched, I have the movie on Blu-ray, and I was watching the attached documentaries, and the cast and writer, also none of them consider it a horror movie. Linda Blair said that she would call it a theological thriller. William Peter Blatty said a supernatural detective story, and William Friedkin said it's a look into the crisis of faith. And I just thought that was really interesting that they don't consider it horror.
Fascinating.
Yeah. It is very interesting. However,
they're wrong, but
it's horror, but it's also
yeah. Just say that you don't respect horror movies and move on, buds.
Yeah, I think this podcast, being a co-host on this podcast, has what it's taught me is that there's like this fear that my film will be considered a horror movie, and that's so strange, because there's so much good stuff here. Yeah, there's terrible stuff here too, but there's probably terrible theological thrillers too, I have to assume. Like some film student.
Most movies that one like would find theology as a main part of it probably are bad, because they're like, God is dead and we killed him, and they're like that kind of movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the like made
Sounds
by
like
a small Christian film studio with a message.
That kind of God is dead.
Yeah.
I thought we were at the end of a D&D campaign and we just killed God and we were like celebrating.
Or like every other JRPG.
Thank you.
Most Final Fantasy games.
I know, Marilee was like, we killed God, and I was like, yeah, that was the journey, Mare.
Yeah.
That's what we were doing. Okay, I understand now. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some like pretentious, awful things. I don't think that the fear, I don't think there were jump scares. I don't think that I was ever like afraid of what I was seeing on screen. But I especially thinking about where I am in my life and where I think about mortality, and like what the soul means and my own spirituality. I do think that the ideas about good and evil and the sort of the positing that, man, because I did watch the director's commentary, and man, Friedkin cannot be like, well, if evil exists, good must exist as well, and I am an author, or I'm an auteur. Fine, whatever. But well taken, and it is on the page, on the screen, that the machinations of forces that are beyond our control that we are stuck between is an interesting philosophical viewpoint, and it is interesting to look at, and it is a little bit frightening to spend time thinking about and digesting.
I think that's fantastic. I am scared by this movie. It worked for me. Like, the things that happen in it that are scary really, really work for me, even after this movie's been out for 50 years, like close to, or I don't know. I can't do math. This is lore for the podcast. I can't do math.
It's 50 years. You're good.
Okay, cool. So that shit still works. Like, the practical effects, they fuck me up in the same way. Well, not quite to the same way that The Thing does. The Thing actually makes me, like, viscerally uncomfortable to watch. But this, I think it still works. I think the piece, like, the green bile that Reagan vomits, I think that's a little silly, but that's mostly because just pop culture has made jokes about that for, like, since the dawn.
Ever since it happened.
Yeah, ever since it happened. But I think, like, the idea, like, having to... I was raised Catholic. I went to a Catholic school. I'm not Catholic anymore. But I always thought of the priests as being very self-assured in their knowledge and their faith. And when they say that they struggle with their faith, I always kind of think of, like, yeah, okay, wink, wink. Of course you do. You're a fucking priest. Like, what are you telling me? But, like, here, I find Paris' struggle so fascinating and scary because, to me, someone who is meant to be very much... like the tent pole, like the platonic ideal of what a priest should be is that you believe in God wholeheartedly and you don't really have like serious struggles of faith and questioning around that. When that gets played up on screen, I love it because it makes me feel uncomfy. I like having certainty in the world. Small things, I think, have a sense of certainty. But this is one of those things where it's like, if I watch you struggle with that, I find that engrossing and I feel all the emotions about it, including fear. So to me, I think the movie is scary.
I love and treasure that.
The only thing I'll say is that while I know that parts of this have been well parodied through society, and that is due to the film's popularity and 52-year run in our lives, not in like a theater, that would be also impressive. I don't
so cool.
I don't ever feel like, and you all can push back on this if you think I'm wrong here, but I'm just doing like a quick mental calculus of the movie. I don't ever think we got camp from the film. I don't think it was, I don't think we ever got there. Even like, and I think that I have a pretty good, I think I read camp more than I would even read genuinity, and I don't think we ever get to camp. And so the parody is really just because of the popularity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Well, okay, it's a horror movie. Great. But that's not the only thing that we ask on this podcast. We also have to discuss the movie in the concepts of queer theory. Is The Exorcist queer?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's
so.
I think it's easier to argue queerness in this movie than it is in Faith or the Nun. Because we have characters that are not fitting the ideology very clearly of what we expect your socio-political role to be. Like, as a priest, Karras is supposed to be, like, you know, not only is he, like, supposed to be dogmatic in his faith, but he's also supposed to be single and, like, not violent and, you know, not engaged in worldly temptations. But we see that Karras is engaged in worldly temptations. He drinks alcohol, which, like, as a Catholic priest, like, yeah, all right, big surprise, you drink alcohol. But, you know, he also swears. Boxing is, like, a really big hobby for him. We see him get violent at the end of the film.
Yeah, we do.
I think all of that stuff is fascinating, and I think you could argue that it is kind of queer in a sense that even though Karras, as far as we can tell, is not showing like same-sex attraction, he is still not. He is kind of like an outcast among his people, and as David is wont to share with us, like the outcasts are the queer ones. So that's my 2 cents on that whole thing. In addition to all the Reagan stuff from our theme section.
This time, I'm not going for an outcast. I'm going. Listen, we all have flaws. I'm going for a cop this time because Kinderman spends this film investigating. He's doing his job, whatever, and his B plot motivation is to find a boyfriend. I don't know any other way to read these scenes because he first approaches Karras, and we'll talk about it when the scene comes up. He's like, "Want to go see a movie?" And then like Karras says a no on this, and then in the original cut of the film, which I watched, which was inferior, he then has this like dialogue scene with Dyer at the end and is like, "Hey, you want to go see a movie?" And I get it. Kinderman, you're going for a boyfriend. You went after these priests, and I understand why, because I too want to fix people, but who you should be asking out is me. Kinderman, come on the podcast.
What's the Arbogast School of Portly Gentlemen?
Oh my god, he is Arbogast. That's who he is.
Maybe you have a type. Maybe you just like like hard-boiled detectives.
You like investigators.
Yeah. Maybe I have a type. I definitely have a type, and this is it.
Yeah. See, I thought Dyer was the gay one because
we
talk about it.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it later in the party scene.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, Dyer has a crush on Karras.
Super. Like it's not even like ambiguous. Like
no, that's pretty on the page. I feel
he took off his shoes, y'all.
Well, okay. Didn't Jesus do
It's
that
tender.
or something?
It's tender. It's intimate.
It's the intimacy.
Yeah.
They've touched dicks at least once. Like,
sure.
you know they have.
Oh,
you
for
know
sure.
they did.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think it's queer. I talked about this with Reagan as well. Definitely. All sorts of gay
Speaking
all over
of
the place.
Reagan, let's talk about possessed girls. So, like, we've been circling around this all month long, but I feel like now with Reagan is really the time for this theme, like this thing, to shine. Because I really think that there is something happening in pretty much every possession movie, that, like, there's something here that I feel like that we as a community can claim girls who get possessed. And, like,
Yeah.
I feel really good about this theme.
Yeah.
And I just think that it's time for this conversation because, like, as we discussed way back when we were talking about, like, themes in general and, like, how we're going to approach, like, queer theory on the podcast, the basis for queer theory is feminist theory. And most possession stories feature a young girl, a teen or a preteen, who is acting in a way that's been deemed by society to be uncontrolled and, you know, like, violent in some way, just, like, against the norms. And I just think that the metaphor there writes itself, like the power inherent in these girls that society is trying to get rid of to banish back to normalcy. And, like, that's pretty queer. I also think, and this is, like, taking it 2 steps beyond, and, like, maybe I'm talking out my ass here, but I just think that there could be a potential storyline here for and again, I am not a trans mask. I'm not gonna claim that. I'm some other weird gender flavor, but, like, it seems like there could be a story here about, like, a man living inside this preteen girl trying to escape and society telling them that that's wrong and trying to, like, deal with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there, I do think that, I think that theory really holds water, Marilee. I think that's actually an excellent, like, call out to make.
Yeah, I just feel like this could be a really powerful metaphor for trans identity in some way, or even still, like, gender exploration. I just think that girls who get possessed are queer, and that's my TED Talk. Thank you for listening.
I think that's a fact, honestly.
Yeah,
like, I love that. I love that whole argument that you're making. I think that's just true. I think that's just true.
Yeah.
So wonderful.
Alyssa, do you have any thoughts? Am I gone on a bridge too far here?
No, I think that everything that you said is kind of how I would look at it or summarize it. So that's why I didn't really add anything. I think that there's also a lot to be said about possessed girls and the violation of the body.
Yeah.
I also think that, and I know that I'm not an expert. I'm like famously the one on the podcast who knows the least about horror films. But we've seen enough possessed boys. They are the minority from what I've been able to access. But the way that they're portrayed is much different. Like, we think about Daniel from last week, who we, by the way, hated. Cut that storyline. But, like, it's treated so much more differently, and that's not, like, there's something that a boy could shove a crucifix into if you want to do that as part of what demon possession would be causing someone to do. I think what I've seen more frequently is when a demon possesses a man or a boy, they go out and do evil elsewhere. And when a girl ends up possessed, she is tied to something, a barn, a bed, whatever. And I do think that's interesting for us to continue to track as we look at horror films where possession ends up being 3/5 of the law, or whatever that quote is. God, that would have been so good if I got it right.
Isn't it 8/10 of the law?
That's what it is. 8/10 of the law. Simplify your fractions. Ugh. I was gotta say, I didn't make it into psychiatry, but I did end up in the mental health field. There is a history of exorcism deployed as a means of what we would now call conversion therapy against queer people, and that remains pretty poignant during the ritual scenes where the priests are confronting the demon that is in Regan. And I also think that the 1973 of it all is very interesting. 1973 is when queer rights advocates finally got the APA to delist homosexuality as a psychological disorder, which was, it was really sad that it showed up there, but it was a really important part of our development and our queer history for that to be removed, and that it happened the same year this film came out, I think was worth referencing. I will say that the nature of conversion therapy, when deployed alongside strongly Catholic environments, does really still have the vibe of the exorcism of it all, even though conversion therapy is illegal in my country. And
must be so nice to have a government that cares about its citizens.
And yet, wildly, we are very Catholic, at least in culture. I don't think I could find an exorcism to save my life here. I think I don't have the language, exorcismo. But no, I wouldn't be successful. So
don't play with any Ouija boards, and you should be set.
Well, I believe in our Until Dawn episode, I made it very clear that these bitches need to get away from this Ouija board, or sorry, spirit board. I don't owe Parker Brothers any money or whatever. Why? Why would you tempt? Are we ready to dive into a beat-by-beat analysis of 1973's The Exorcist?
Let's do it.
Woohoo!
We begin in northern Iraq, where the elderly priest, Father Lancaster Marin, finds a stone talisman of a winged creature. Later, he sees a statue of the creature in what may be a vision. Great cinematography here. Did have me questioning everything that was going on. We then travel to Georgetown in Washington, D.C. P.S. I have been here. This was a, like, you had to go if you went to high school nearby. You travel to the stairs and everything. It looks
brag,
fantastic.
David.
Every episode.
David, our resident humble bragger. I'll just say that.
Listen, whatever. Yeah, okay. Everyone lives near DC. Like, at some point in time, you're fine. Speaking of people who live in DC temporarily, actress Chris McNeil starts the morning with her daughter, Regan. Chris complains about rats in the attic before going to work on a movie set. In the crowd of extras acting as student protesters, she spots the priest, Father Damien Karras. Karras leaves the scene as Chris and her director, Burke Dennings, start shooting the film. After work, Chris spots Karras speaking animatedly with another priest. Karras travels to New York to visit his ailing mother, and we see Karras struggle to be a good caretaker and son for her before he heads back to Georgetown. Later, Karras is in a bar with a fellow priest and admits that he's having a crisis of faith.
So I love the conversation that Regan and Chris have about the horse. There's a lovely scene when Chris is getting ready to go to work where she and Regan are talking about, like, Regan wants a horse or wants to pet a horse or ride a horse or something like that because it's something that she wants to do for her birthday. And rich, spoiled girl vibes. Like, but she's so charming. Like, Linda Blair does such a wonderful job making pre-possession Regan so cute, but not cloying. She's not annoying. She's just very charming. Like, if you met her, you met Regan in real life, she would probably have, like, a pleasure to have in class written on her report card. Like, she really is such a sweetheart, which makes it even more effective later when she is possessed.
Yeah,
right.
Linda Blair really carries this movie in a lot of ways, and just gives such an incredible performance.
Yeah.
I think it also works really well as, like, a nice foil for for the relationship that Chris and Regan have versus the relationship that Karras has with his mother, since that is a very different energy when they interact.
The opening scene, again, I know I've seen this, but you forget things. I just didn't realize how long it was. I really thought that we were like...
That was another thing that I had noted as well. It just spent so much more time in Iraq than I remember. Like, the way that it played in my brain was that he finds the little bauble and then immediately it goes to the vision. And then, but no, like, he spends a long time wandering around. There's a whole bunch of stuff happening there.
There's some really awesome filmmaking done with the way the music or the way the scene is blocked has, like, someone pounding an anvil at the same time. So there just ends up being this kind of ominous, very unpleasant to listen to rhythm that goes on that builds up the suspense for what is it that Marin is doing. Like, it's just this mysterious old man in Iraq, and he's up to something.
Yeah. But I love that starting the film here also gave us an opportunity to sort of open the film under the sounds of Islamic prayer, which I do think was a really, really great choice to, sort of expose you to the idea that we're going to be exploring spirituality, religion, and belief in this film. And that while we'll be spending a lot of time with Catholics, that is not the only system of belief that exists in the world.
Mm-hmm. I think it also works if I'm like a 70s filmmaker, probably like if I'm in the 70s and I'm like, I want to make it clear to the audience that we're in another world entirely. It would probably be like, oh, I should use, like, the Islamic call to prayer to indicate, like, we're not in America. But I that's, like, I think a practical reading of it for what I assume they were thinking, because in 1973 they're not going to be as politically correct, which is not a bad thing. They were less concerned about that. So, but I prefer your interpretation, David, because I think that works really well.
Beautiful.
So Karras, he's having here's his crisis of faith. Here's when he becomes sexy. It's the beginning. I spent so much more time thinking about this aspect of Karras this time. Everything about his faith seems like a burden to him, and that is a struggle of the believer. Is that my active decision to serve the higher purpose that I have come to find and believe in is the thing that is holding me back from achieving anything. It's preventing him from seeing his mother. It's preventing him from earning enough money to have his mother be cared for, because it looks like she lives in a slum in so many ways, and we get that from Karras's walk towards her. Just this excellent shot, and that crisis is so well realized, and we get that with these first few scenes with Karras, and I think that's really nice. I definitely appreciated it.
Yeah, there's something like, to me that's really beautiful and speaks closely to me about the relationship between Damien and his mother, even though there's only a scant few scenes involving them in the movie. But I think because for me, I had a complicated relationship with my mom, and a lot of that was due to her own illnesses, both physically and mentally. And I can relate strongly to those mixed feelings of obligation and helplessness.
Oh yeah. And it manifests like a survivor's guilt. Even when you haven't yet been a survivor, like you haven't actually lost your parent yet. The manifestation of survivor's guilt is there, and we can see that in Karras, and that probably is something that you experienced. It's something I experienced with my own traumatic relationship with my mother. Yeah, it's very real.
And there's also a quote, because I'm queen of quotes today.
Let's do it.
That at the end of this kind of section in the book where Chris says, "What looked like the morning was the beginning of endless night."
Ooh.
Oh, so good. Very ominous.
So good.
Very ominous. Very, very setting the mise en scène of the film.
The thing about this movie is that it's really good, and you can quote me on that. I just
Wow. Hot take, Marilyn.
I know.
Put that in the Rotten Tomatoes.
I love the way that this movie table sets, especially in like this first section here, because it does it so well, and it really, like, none of the scenes linger too long, and each one perfectly sets up what is going to be the dynamics that all of these characters are going to be dealing with throughout the film, and it's so clear and executed so well, and I like competence, and so seeing this movie set up a bunch of pins, knowing that they're all going to be knocked down perfect, was really enjoyable to me.
For sure. So one of those scenes, I think, is actually kind of perfect segue from what you just said, Marilee, into we're in the McNeil basement. Chris finds a Ouija board and wants to play it with Regan, but Regan says that Captain Howdy, the spirit she interacts with using the board, does not want to speak with them. That night, they talk about Regan's birthday plans, which include Regan giving Chris permission to bring her friend, the director Burke, to her birthday. On Regan's actual birthday, Regan overhears Chris arguing with an operator in an attempt to get Regan's father on the phone. Poor Regan looks very dejected and sadly takes off her shoes at the end of that scene. The next day, a priest discovers a vandalized statue of the Virgin Mary in a church. Later, Karras meets his uncle in a hospital. His uncle placed Karras's mother in the hospital as a result of her unstable behavior due to complications with the edema on her leg. Real quick, David, is that like a good way to describe what she was going through? Because I really struggled with that line when I was writing it.
Her injury?
Because like the injury caused her to have some sort of like mental incident. Like, I don't know if calling it unstable behavior is like kosher.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's why she was brought to. This is a psychiatric ward. It is both very clear, and this is actually a psychiatric ward. Friedkin explains in his commentary that some of the background are folks who are in the ward.
I don't like that, actually.
No. The more I listened to his commentary, the more I disliked Friedkin.
Yeah, a bit of an asshole.
Anyway, I will just say, I think your description works very well.
Okay.
Especially for the setting of this. We don't do wards like this anymore. I think there's plenty of argument that we don't treat people better, but we do treat them differently. Who are going through crisis or are going through a struggle with their mental well-being, even as the result of a physical health complication, like we see with Karras's mother.
Okay. Karras meets with his mother, but she refuses to interact with him. Karras repeatedly tells her that he'll take her out of the hospital immediately. Back at the McNeil house, Chris hosts a party with fabulous guests, including the priest, Father Dyer, Burke, and an astronaut. Regan appears and tells the astronaut, "You're gonna die up there," before urinating on the carpet, much like I do at the end of the night. Later, Regan's bed shakes, terrifying both her and Chris.
Listen, I think we're well established on this podcast that none of us like big parties where we don't feel like we have the space to ourselves. So like take a leaf out of this book and just pee.
Just pee.
people
Find a random
will go
Piss on
person.
the carpet after threatening someone with death.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. You really need to combine both.
Yeah.
Just look at somebody and be like, you're gonna die, and then pee.
Yeah.
You're gonna die in a very ominous. You have to be as ominous as possible.
As ominous
Wow.
as possible. Oh, so good.
Well, and I've just got to say, I don't know if that was the notes that got me to remember who's an astronaut, or my like cultural osmosis of this, or if it's delivered in dialogue or not.
It is delivered in dialogue. There's like a bit where he's talking earlier about like he's talking to Father Dryer actually about, and like he's like, you should take me up there. I'll be the first missionary to Mars.
Okay. That's right. That's
Yep,
what it is.
that's what it was.
is.
Yep.
Dyer, just desperate to be in a small capsule with another man. But I love the idea that a demon can prey upon the fears that are at the most entry point of your mind. And astronauts have been studied by psychologists and mental health professionals because it's kind of fun. Because there's not too many of them, and so you get to. I don't know. We're weird people. And when we start to look at the psychology of different vocations, astronauts are some of the people who have the most fear about the nature of their job. It isn't the most high risk job in the world. There are certainly higher risk vocations that exist in our world, but it is the idea that you are not exposed to the severe risks of your job frequently enough to develop any sort of callus around the fear, because an astronaut doesn't go into space every other week like a deep sea fisherman goes to go get deep sea fish. Those people develop a callus, which is also bad for your mental health, but their fear becomes numbed over time, and an astronaut's never does. And this is such a it is such a stellar way to communicate that a demon can prey upon something that is at the poke of your mind, which is what this demon will do to Karis later.
That's so fun and smart. Thank you.
Yeah. Alyssa, I'm really curious about, since we're talking about the astronaut, like your notes here, because I know, like, obviously we all were kind of confused about, like, is he an astronaut? Like, it's very briefly mentioned. So can you talk more about that?
Because like outside of that like brief line, if you're not really paying strong attention, you would have no idea what she's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because for years and years and years, when I was younger, I didn't really get it. Like, I knew she was telling this guy he was going to die, but I had never caught on to the fact that he was an astronaut until I read the book, where it's much more like describing this man is an astronaut. He does space job.
Yeah. And
so to me, it's like it's kind of a blink and you'll miss it.
Yeah, mm-hmm. I agree. No, in a novel, this is what's so cool. Reading is so cool. A, just the idea that we wrote down words and people can read them. But also B, in a book, you can be like the astronaut. And in film, and Friedkin's a hack in a different way, but he's not this kind of hack. Only a hack would like have the astronaut show up in like an astronaut's costume and be like, sorry, a busy day at space job. So the only way to know he was an astronaut would be to use it in dialogue. And again, this isn't a hacky script. So it's not like this guy just like being like, hey guys, astronaut here. And so I do think that like this is where transitioning things from literature to film is a big challenge and is a real and significant job. And having Blatty at the helm is really, really exciting. I know Friedkin and Blatty had some disagreements about the adaptation, and it does sound like the end result was much better than Blatty's like first draft on this. But it's just a great example of how sometimes it is just difficult to visually represent things that you can just put in narrative, which is the nice thing about reading.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and like there's a whole character that is seen in the movie. Like she's the lady that's wearing all black. She's a psychic.
Oh my gosh.
And in the book, she's like a character, and she meets Reagan and like touches her and then freaks out, and she's like, I have to leave.
Interesting.
And then later she gives Chris a book about like occult stuff, and the book disappears. And later on she finds it under Reagan's bed, and it leads to a whole thing with Father Karras being like, this could be be like suggestion, or she could be faking it because she read it in this book. And so he like for the whole first part of her trying to get an exorcism, he was like, no.
Yeah, I love that.
That's so fun.
Mm-hmm. I have a couple things I want to point out as a real quick little pin on our astronaut part of this. That astronaut, the actor and character, is in a loose sort of sequel to this movie called The Ninth Configuration. That is not like an out and out horror movie either. So it's just kind of interesting that like I wish if we did have a cinematic universe, like...
We do.
Well, then I wish it was better, because I think that this is actually really fascinating that you can have a cinematic universe that has different kinds of stories in it, but they're all like a little bit fantastical or strange in some way. But also it's not really a big deal because they're just very loosely connected. Like it's this astronaut that just shows up for 2 scenes in the movie, and then here he is, and he's got his own movie that came out later. I think it was a Friedkin film. It was either Friedkin or Blatty, because Blatty ended up directing some other Exorcist movies later on. But I also want to talk about the magazine that Regan looks at. So there's a scene like Regan is being put to bed by Chris, and Chris like takes this magazine and she's like, "Why are you looking at this? It's not even a good photo of me." And it's more of that kind of charming relationship that the two of them have. But in that magazine, it's talking about that Chris and Regan are having trouble in the family, most likely because of Regan's estranged father. Which is like a little bit of foreshadowing, or I think if I have the order of scenes right, I think it is like a little bit of foreshadowing, or it is just like a little bit more information about the relationship that the McNeils have with the father, who doesn't even have a name, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
He's just kind of an asshole.
Yeah, he fucking sucks. Like she like we see her listening to this, and like Chris McNeil keeps being like, "I've been on hold for 20 minutes." But her quietly going back into her room and taking off her shoes because she knows that her birthday isn't about her anymore. It's about the drama between Chris and her ex-husband, Reagan's father. That breaks my heart. It breaks my heart so fucking hard every time. And it's just... it gives like this tiny itty bitty taste of what this divorce was like for her in a very, very real way. And as the child of a very messy divorce, I can say that like what Reagan's going through right now, that's gonna leave a mark, babes. And you can see where like this kid might be interested in using a Ouija board for companionship. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And I think, and I don't know that the film ends up doing it as much that maybe like a heavier hand would, but I think that what that also gives us, Merrily, is the idea that like, should we ever as the audience believe that Regan is faking everything that's going on, because that is central to the idea that we have to make sure that this is a legitimate exorcism or a legitimate possession. And so, oh look, she feels ignored by her parents. Wouldn't that cause a child to act out? And so I loved tracking a lot of this. I think ultimately, I think a bridge gets crossed where like, no, this is supernatural with a capital SU. And so there's no going back from that. But I do like all these moments of being like, is it really a possession? And maybe that, now that we've done a couple of these, because obviously my best friend's exorcism, this was my bone as well that I yanked onto. Maybe I just really love the part of a possession story in which you are supposed to question whether or not the possession is legitimate.
What was that movie, The Exorcism of Emily Rose?
Yes.
Haven't seen it.
Oh, that real story is so sad.
Yeah.
Yes, it is very sad. But
Annalise Michaud. Yeah.
David, I think it might be a movie that interests you in that case.
Oh, because of this whole thing that I just said.
Yeah. Like the whole plot of the movie is trying to figure out was this a legitimate exorcism or not?
Yeah.
It's like after the fact, after she dies from the exorcism, it's like the court case about.
Oh yeah, no, that's hot. I love that. Oh my god, put some of this shit in a courtroom. That's what I wanted that third Conjuring movie to be about. Because that is about a real case where someone claimed demonic possession was the reason that they killed people, and I was like, oh my god, we're gonna be in court. Yes, and then we weren't. We were in an impossibly large basement.
I hated that movie. Oh man. Okay.
Oh,
sorry.
Alyssa. Anyway, let's talk about the vandal. Speaking of nothing, let's talk about the vandalism. The vandalism is so stark. It is so wonderfully done. I do think that we're meant to interpret, because of the little figure that Regan made, figures that we'll find later, that it's the same type of clay that appears on this statue. Ooh, could Regan have done this? Ooh. But it's so stark, but it also, in this film, felt so distant from our characters. Like, it's not Father Dyer who discovers it. It's an unknown priest. I liked it. So, like, I was like, why do I like this, even though it feels a little bit unnecessary? And maybe it is just setting the mood of what's going on. But, vandalism happened.
That's exactly my thought on it, too. But go ahead, Alyssa.
In the book, it's more of a plot point. Like, Kinderman
Oh.
is actively investigating the vandalism and talks to Karis about it and stuff. But, like, I can see why they would cut it from the movie because it's
Sure.
not, like...
Yeah, but I mean, you cut Kinderman? Oh, God, Friedkin, your sins are multiple.
Oh, wait till I tell you about, what's his name? The Swiss,
Oh, yeah,
manservant?
Yeah.
He's got a whole storyline.
Okay, I
Ooh,
did
that's
actually
right.
I found that in my background research. Unfortunately, that one was spoiled for me through one of the commentaries I watched.
Ooh.
Well, not
I
spoiled
I have no
for
idea
me.
who
just-
you're talking about,
his
so
name.
that's going to be fun for
Yeah,
me.
Carl. We're gonna get to it.
I'm excited.
Father Dyer visits Karis with an expensive bottle of liquor. Karis's mother has died, and Karis is overwhelmed by grief. He dreams of his dead mother, as well as other ominous imagery, and one of my favorite sequences of the whole movie. Later, Reagan goes through several medical tests, including painfully accurate spinal taps. It's a lot. Unfortunately, after each test, the doctors fail to find anything physical to be a cause for her behavior. Even after Reagan's possession worsens and becomes violently sexual, the doctors insist on putting her through more intense medical procedures and eventually psychiatry. When Chris returns home, she discovers that Burke has died after falling down the bottom of the stairs outside the McNeil home. Back at Georgetown University, Karis is out jogging when he meets Lieutenant Kinderman, who believes that Burke's gruesome death and the church vandalism may be connected through some sort of satanic cult or witchcraft.
Okay. Karis's dream, I think, is really fascinating. We get like a really cool, very quick shot of Pazuzu, who is the demon that is possessing Regan. If you watch this movie, you'll see that there are brief instances where a shot of like a very pale, ghostly face, very scary looking, shrouded in darkness, just appears in a blink and you'll miss it moment. It's been called like subliminal imagery, even though I believe Friedkin doesn't like calling it that, because if it's in the movie, it's not subliminal, it's intentional. Which, auteur business and all. But it is very unsettling. It makes you kind of question for a moment because it's so fast. Like, did I just see that? Is that really there? And the fact that it shows up in Karis's dream, which is very menacing, it has a little bit of foreshadowing in it. The overall, like, presentation of Karis being on one end of a busy street and Karis's mother being on the other end, and Karis's mother is descending down into a subway, and you can't hear what they're saying to each other. You just hear, like, Karis's moaning in his sleep. It's very, very effective. It's excellent. And I think just like watching him grieve is also so rich in the film, and it influences everything that he does going forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's wonderful. What's not wonderful are all these medical tests that Regan is going through. I think medicine works explicitly on what is known, and that is important and probably is part of quality delivery of medicine. Unfortunately, the idea of the unknown is always going to be greater than the known, and spreading known information among the now global network of healthcare providers will continue to be a challenge. And I think this medical scenario may be distressing for people to watch. It might be distressing for you to watch because you have medical anxiety. I think it might be distressing to watch if you are trans or fat, or you navigate the medical world where there is so much unknown about you that assumptions are made in order to jump to answers, because that is what medicine relies on, are answers. And I think that in delivering medical anxiety, I think it's capturing a lot of medical anxiety that continues to exist for folks who are listening, for folks who are part of these marginalized communities. And so I think effective, good job film, and back to the theme of like the more things change, we really haven't gotten beyond this. You would continue to go to a room full of doctors and have them look for the answer with the tools that they have. It's not, when it's bad, it's really, really bad, but it is the system of medicine.
Yeah, I think that's great for context, because, I never really thought about medicine that way. And so, of course, though, I know that medical can be, because it is for me, medical experiences are distressing because I'm a fat person and I'm also a queer person. So there are assumptions made, as David said. There are things that are performed that are not ideal because they're of those assumptions. And I think that's a great source of anxiety. But what I personally found so gripping and upsetting, because I was very upset seeing Regan go through things like the spinal tap, is also Chris's end of this whole thing. Because Chris, you could really turn this whole movie into a horror movie without the exorcism part of it, and instead just make it a story where Chris, the mother, who is basically a single mother, her daughter, there is something medically wrong with her that no one can figure out, and she watches her child scream, cry, and be punctured and bleed, and have these extremely loud machines go all over her, and people speak over her and treat her very inhumanely, in the sense that it doesn't come off that they're treating her like a person, but instead as a thing to be studied. Chris is going through it, and I think that is, again, fascinating to watch, but it's also horrifying to watch, because I can't imagine anything worse as a parent than watching your child go through so many miserable experiences, and doctors still can't figure out what the solution is, when doctors in popular culture are thought of as being the people with all the answers.
Right. And then doesn't this whole Chris scenario kind of give you vibes of Amelia from The Babadook?
Yeah.
100%. 110%.
Yeah,
I literally was thinking about it when I was watching the movie, and I was just like, man, this shit's so scary. They should do a movie where it's just all about medical things and trying to figure out what's wrong with the child. Wait, they did. It's called The Babadook. It was our very first analytical movie.
Yeah. And then there was an actual monster also there, BTW.
Mm-hmm. I also never realized that Burke's head turning around, because that's what we end up discovering from Kinderman, is that the reason why Kinderman is trying to associate the gruesome, the church vandalization with Burke, is that they all seem to be satanic in nature. And so when they find Burke's head has been turned around in 180 degrees, so he's facing backwards, and that was very alarming, and they harp on about how that is statistically possible but extremely unlikely. And so we are then made to assume that Regan is the one who did this while possessed, which means that she also did the vandalization in the church. I never realized that was all kind of foreshadowed and worked together. So yeah. I thought that
this does bring our excommunicable out the window count up by 1.
True.
Because if we're taking what Kinderman says at face value, and given the fact that the window was open when Chris came home, then probably Regan twisted his head around and then tossed him out the open window. So here we are, count of 5.
Nope, I believe you, Marilee. But what's that from the judge? We didn't get to see it. Doesn't count. Doesn't count. I believe that's what happened.
Wait, can I speak to the judge? Can I speak to the referee here?
The judge has made us really.
Well, I'm gonna be like the coach on the football field and just throw my hat down on the ground, because I disagree with that profoundly, sir.
Oh,
it's in the narrative that he was pushed out of a window in a religious film.
All right, I'm getting an update. All right, the count's up to 5. You win this round. Count is up to 5. 5, not all defenestrations, because they're not all pushes. This one would be a push, though. This one was not
either a push or a gentle toss.
Yeah, not an act of self-sacrifice like we saw last week.
True.
Although technically.
Oh well.
Unless. I'm just kidding.
No. I don't want to skip over the beginning of this too, because I think that the loss of Karis's mother, it doesn't feel like an end cap of this part of it. It actually just feels very generative. It's such a powerful moment for anyone who has experienced loss of a parent. And I think that watching this film, it's kind of impossible not to think about this and to feel that grief all over again. And yet it is the natural order for children to grieve their parents passing. And the true horror is when a parent has to grieve the loss of their child, because that is unnatural. And I think that in a film about faith, where cultures developed spirituality and religion to understand loss and process it, it is really brilliant to have this be part of Karis's experience. And I truly love it. I truly love what goes on with Karis. It was so personally impactful to me.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree. His mother's death and his subsequent grief hits really differently after losing my mom. I felt very similarly, like there was something I could have done, I could have done to help, and I didn't do that, and it's a really helpless feeling.
Yeah.
So seeing all that, watching it, for the past 10 years now, every time I watch it, it's different than it was before 2015.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel very similarly to that, as well as very specifically, there's a line of dialogue, I forget who says it, but something along the lines of, she had been dead for a few days before somebody found her.
Mm.
And that really hits hard.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this is also all coming after Karis's uncle, the brother to Karis's mother. I wish we actually had like an official name for him. That's really hard. But he said that if only Damien had been a psychiatrist, he could be on Park Avenue, and his mother would be living, very nicely in a much more lavish life as opposed to the slum that she was living in, and most importantly, potentially could have been alive. So absolutely, I think the grief is all part of that. I think Father Dyer coming to visit Karis is very beautiful. We kind of made this joke a little earlier that Father Dyer is like the gay priest. Like, he's definitely like our pretty uncoded queer person here. I think it's like he takes off Karis's shoes when Karis is going to go to sleep, which I think is intimate. I think the fact that Dyer has done something kind of unpriestly, and they make jokes about it, that he stole this very expensive bottle of liquor from this the Georgetown University's president. I don't know for sure if that's true, but it's certainly interesting to see Dyer, who is kind of like our queer person, sort of flaunt what is the expectation of a priest in a very fun way. Like, we've seen Karis, and obviously here he's grieving, but every time that we've seen Karis otherwise, the way that he flaunts the priesthood is very much born out of that internal like self-loathing, doubt, etc. Dyer does it because he cares about his friend and because he also thinks it's funny. Like,
here's the tea, everybody. Queer people love their friends. And that's we claim that.
Yeah.
You mean everybody else isn't like slightly in love with every friend they've ever made?
Yeah. Well, I feel that too.
Yeah, me too.
I think that's possible too, Alyssa.
Yeah.
Tyler, in case people are listening and don't know, Georgetown University is a Jesuit university, which means that it is founded by a type of Catholicism of Jesuits. That would mean that the president, especially in the 70s, would almost certainly be a priest. And so I think that there's also this fun of Dyer robbing a sort of more established, higher up, more system priest, taking from him to give to someone who's actually in the rank and file who is suffering. And maybe there's more of this in the book, Alyssa, but my vibe with Karis is that he is not a psychiatrist for the flock, but he is a psychiatrist for other priests.
I believe so.
Yeah, well, that is a much different job.
Yeah.
And that is a very complicated job to have. Just being a psychiatrist who is also a priest would be interesting enough, but being a psychiatrist for other people who are ordained in faith, who do in and of themselves a type of therapy in confessional, is a wild thing, and it truly would have to be a calling from God to take that on. I have no other way to say that. As a person who doesn't particularly feel that spirituality, something would have to compel me to take such an intense job on, and to have his brother then be like, but you could have made money off rich people, really spits in that. And there's already a lot of spit there that our guy Karis has put on himself of all this guilt. Oh, this is all just so...
Well, it's so interesting too, because like we learned later that the order of operations that Karis did was that the Jesuits paid for his schooling. So he was a priest.
He went to Harvard, babes.
Yeah. Karis is smart. Like, he is extremely, extremely smart because of the bona fide list of like accreditations that he has. He's also a psychiatrist specifically, which means he also has an MD, so he's a medical doctor. Yep. And what is really hard to watch, coming back to this scene, is knowing that Karis is extremely skilled and extremely good at what we can see, because we don't see any other priests in Crisis, it's only him. He's living in the dorms. Dyer, like, when we start this scene of Dyer going over to Karis's room, we see Dyer passes a room of students who are playing cards in a dorm room, and then we come over to Karis's little dorm room, and it's just like kicking him when he's down, the fact that he lives there in that sort of situation. And yet he is so brilliant, and as his uncle says, he has enough like bona fides that he could be living on Park Avenue, and his mother may have survived the experience, because it sounds like the whole reason she passed away is that Karis, out of a feeling of grief, took her out of the hospital.
Well, they couldn't afford a better one, and the one that she was in was not great.
No, but she, like, you could still make the art, like, I think that's part of what makes it so painful. And like you both spoke so beautifully about grief and your own personal experiences with it. I think part of what makes that so difficult is the feeling of like, did I make the right decision?
And there isn't a right choice.
There isn't. So it could be that Karis's mother, she might well have died in that psychiatric ward, or she died because Karis took her out of there and brought her home. Where, as you said, Marilee, she was not found for a few days. So it's very... I think her death is so powerful, and it leaves like this crater in Karis that it
like
just
the death
becomes...
of a parent does in anybody, you know?
This is such a good movie. I love this movie.
It's so good. I know. It's a very hot take that we have here, but movie good.
Movie good.
Well, then let's continue talking about the film, because Chris is back with a panel of doctors, and they are stumped about what is going on with her daughter. One of them suggests an exorcism, mentioning that there is an outside chance that it could work psychologically. And that, that's the sort of thing that you might actually expect. I think a lot of modern reviews that have watched this film are like, I can't believe a doctor would possibly suggest this. There are studies that like prayer for someone who believes in it can be a beneficial thing. We shouldn't use it as a blanket way of going about things, but there is benefit to these things. So I bought all that, hook, line, and sinker. Upon returning home, Chris meets Lieutenant Kinderman, just got hot in here, who eventually comes to suggest that perhaps Regan was the one who killed Burke. This is a great sequence, by the way. I hope we do end up talking about it, because it's so tense between the two of them. Mm-hmm. After he leaves, Chris has no time to gather her thoughts because Regan and a demonic voice scream together. Regan is masturbating with a crucifix, screaming, "Let Jesus fuck you," and then forcing Chris's face into her bloody groin. Regan knocks her mother back, terrorizing her before taunting her with Burke's voice. We're also treated to Regan's head famously turning around backwards. Later, on a bridge, Chris meets with Father Karras and begs him to do an exorcism. Karras, skeptical that an exorcism is actually needed, meets with Regan. Her condition has deteriorated, and the demon possessing her taunts Karras, eventually projectile vomiting green goo onto him. Still, Karras recommends psychiatric care over an exorcism, but Chris insists on the exorcism.
Which, I get. She says very specifically, she's got every doctor in the world. They told me to go to you. And, I get it, girl.
Yeah. But I think for Karras, faith has brought, especially right now, all faith has brought him is pain. And then somebody comes to him and is like, I would like to use faith for healing. And he was like, no, girl, I'm going through it right now. Faith sucks. You don't want any of this. Listen to me. I know psychiatry. Let's use psychiatry. It's way better than belief. Belief sucks. Run away from belief.
He even says, if you want an exorcism, you got to get a time machine and go back to the 13th century. I think 13th, but just the medieval times, essentially, which I think is even further fascinating on that note, David, because he's basically equating faith with an outdated belief system and an outdated time period. So it's just I don't care anymore. God is dead, and I killed him.
Yeah. He's struggling. Yeah. Oh, God, this bridge scene. Oh, so good. This whole sequence is great.
Real quick, Ellen Burstyn, after, Karras says enough times, you just got to get a psychiatrist. She's just the doctors sent me to you, and now you're telling me to go back to them? I can't take anymore. Jesus Christ, won't somebody help me? And, the way she says that, I was like, Mama Oscar, because that is literally, the perfect performance of someone at the end of their rope, because I have been there. I'm sure we have all been there many times, and the way she expresses that is, perfect. It's it's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, the scene with Chris and Karras at the bridge is one of my favorites in the movie. It's her desperation and Damien's crisis of faith are so palpable in that scene. The audiobook is narrated by William Peter Blatty, and he does a really good job at showing that emotion in the narration as well. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
That makes me want to listen to the audiobook now.
It's good.
I also think part of what the bridge scene really evoked for me, and maybe I'm overreaching this time, but Chris comes up with sunglasses covering her injuries. She is presenting the way that a trained mental health professional, maybe not in the 1970s, but today would be like, oh, you are hiding injuries. This is evidence of domestic violence. And what Chris has experienced is domestic violence. It is not spousal abuse, but it is family violence. And that is, at least from my viewpoint and my perspective, was very, very well shot and well communicated, and speaks to what Chris is going through, which is
100%.
Yeah. As you said, David, earlier, Freakin is a hack, but he's not a hack in this particular context. I think Freakin sounds like a huge asshole and should have been fired and is a terrible person. However,
he can fucking direct.
that the art that he creates is, in this instance, extremely, extremely good. And I think, it sucks that he's such a terrible person. But, my God, like, everything in this film is so well constructed, including things like the bridge scene.
And, like, the lines that come from Karis's first meeting with Reagan, like, what an excellent day for an exorcism. And, like, that's much too vulgar a display of power, Karis. I love it so much.
Yeah.
And, like, I love the scene. It's like Pazuzu knew, man, because he said, it'll bring us closer together. And Karis says, you and Reagan, and Pazuzu says, you and us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
God, this movie owns bones. It's so good.
So
yeah,
good.
Again, extremely hot take from Fear Coded Podcast. The Exorcist is a good movie.
Of course.
Chris and Kinderman, can we, I just have to give Friedkin the flowers. I do apologize. I hate that they will rot upon touching him. But the scene with Kinderman and Chris is so well done because we are doing, like, the world's slowest dolly pull to get a little bit closer to them, and then when Kinderman sort of gives up the ghost of trying to, like, get the answer to did Regan do this, it then pulls away, and the pull away you can feel because it happens at a speed that I think is a normal sort of zoom or dolly focus, but the creep in that's what's horror. That is a horror camera technique. It belongs in this genre.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. And just like the chess that the two of them are playing with each other, where they're both trying, or they have information they want to get from the other person without revealing their own hand. I'm mixing chess and poker here, but, like, just go with me. It's a fun game. We're playing Balatro. It's fine. And just, like, the ways that the two of them have this conversation just really rules.
Totally.
Yeah.
David, like, we don't often do this, but I actually did not find Kinderman to be, like, very appealing to me. I think wonderful performance by the actor. Unfortunately, he actually passed away not long after either the movie was made or when it was released. And
the curse.
Yes, the curse that was kind of part of it. Lots of death, in fact. But getting back to my point, I thought he performed it so well that it made me really detest him because he seems like such a slimy dude who is constantly, like, messing with Chris to get what he wants. And Chris, as you said, Marilee, they're playing 4D chess. Chris is doing so well, but I think Kinderman has the upper hand here because he has more info.
Well, it makes total sense that I would find him appealing and you would not. We've met each other's partners. You prefer someone who is delightful and adorable, and I love a slime ball. So, I mean, I don't know what to say here.
That's exactly what I think of Mike. Like, as soon as I met him, huge slime ball vibes. And he doesn't listen to this podcast, so he'll never know that I said that.
Sure doesn't. So, you know what, babe? If you want to know what I'm saying about you, listen to one of the hundreds of podcasts that I'm on.
Well, so we've circled around this a lot, and I think now it's time for us to dive in. The masturbation scene.
Masturbation, as if it's not
assault.
Yeah, like vaginal penetration with a foreign object.
Well, and that even speaks to almost I wasn't even entirely sure if I was supposed to be reading this as I guess I was reading it as a stabbing and not I was reading it as a violent stabbing of a sharp object in an impalement strategy, which is completely divorced of the nature of masturbation, which is a pleasurable sensation.
But it definitely has, like, the imagery of it. Like, this is definitely the demon fucking with us as the viewer in this scene, as well as, like, hurting Reagan, but trying to make it you uncomfortable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely the implication for everything that's done in this scene. It's definitely not meant to titillate. So, unfortunately, pop culture has referred to this as, like, the masturbation with the crucifix scene.
Oh, sure. Oh, so, yeah.
Even though, like you all said, it plays out much more as, like, sexual assault. I think if we put on our literary analysis hats for a quick second, I think you could also make the argument about this being a bit of that, like, feminist idea that if Reagan is seen as someone that is very rebellious and resistant to the status quo and patriarchy, I think masturbating, in quotes, with a crucifix is the ultimate fuck you to the church, and then her saying "let Jesus fuck you" is horribly blasphemous to the church, and probably if you were talking blasphemy, you can't say anything worse than that. So I think her then pulling Chris's face into her groin and basically rubbing her face in blood from that groin region, I think is also related to the idea of the monstrous menstruation, as you were talking about, Alyssa. Like, I think that is definitely something that immediately spoke to me. And I think it's also just a bit queer as well because of all these different reasons that I just went over. I think it's showing a lot of resistance to the status quo and ideology. And Lord knows we love to talk about queer people fucking with the common thought that is ideology. But at the end of the day, it's horrifying. And Regan is the victim here. And it's just a very powerful scene that has left an indelible mark in cinema. And I think that then has such like a neat bow on top when we see Regan turn her head around, because that was very shocking for the audience at that time. If you've never seen this movie before, I'm sure it's also still very shocking. She then says,
but you know that happens. Like,
that happens.
Pop culture has the spitting head and the pea soup be like the big takeaways.
I think also the line that she says where she's speaking in Burke's voice was,
do you know what she did? Your cunting daughter?
Exactly, yeah. After, like, in the party scene, Burke, I think, calls someone a cunt or uses cunting as a verb. So it's also, like, a throwback to remind the audience, like, oh, she's, like, impersonating Burke, for sure. Which means that, yes, Regan definitely did kill Burke by twisting his head around like she just did to herself and throwing him out the window. Which is then confirming all of...
Regan didn't do it, but yeah.
But that's part of what is so fascinating about this movie is that Pazuzu and Regan, where does the identity kind of, like, go in there? It's that liminal aspect to it because it's Pazuzu possessing Regan, but Regan has, like, it's Regan's body still. So it's very messy. And I think that's where we thrive whenever we talk about or analyze a piece of media is when it's messy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's messy.
It's messy, all right. This movie's messy. So, Father Karras performs Mass after all of this happens, and as he holds the Eucharist, his face changes as though he has realized something. We then see him investigating Regan's possession, performing tests, and recording her speech to get proof for the Catholic Church. Karras tells Chris that he's still not convinced, and Chris admits that Regan killed Burke. Karras discovers that Regan's strange speech during the investigation was English spoken backwards, and Regan had called out for Marion! Karras is summoned back to the Menil home, where he's shown that the words "help me" are manifesting on Regan's torso. Horrifying scene, by the way.
That was very horrifying.
Lots of scary stuff from this point on. Karras goes to the region's bishop, or the diocese's bishop, if we want to get really specific about it, to seek permission to perform the exorcism, in spite of still not fully believing that this is a true possession. The bishop and another high-level priest agree to the exorcism and summon Father Lancaster Marin to perform it, with Karras assisting. We then go to the exterior of the McNeil home, where Father Marin arrives in an iconic image, one of the most iconic in Hollywood.
Yeah. Okay. Again, I'm gonna see. This actually is just a pop quiz for Alyssa on the book at this point in time. Now that you've revealed yourself as having so much expertise, I have so many questions because I too kind of wanted to read the book, but there was no time. There was simply no time before our recording. So we've talked about this throughout the month because the Catholic nature of transubstantiation is such a powerful facet of the ideology. And for me, I wasn't entirely sure if this sort of celebration of the transubstantiation that we see with Karras was real or was just something that was happening inside his mind. What was this really him preparing Mass, or was this just a memory of preparing Mass?
I don't actually think this was a scene in the book.
Oh, okay.
Unless I just forget it. My recent reread, I listened on double speed because I'm an insane person.
You're a delight, so jot that down.
Thanks. I just listen to books so fast.
You're in
so
4 book
fast.
clubs. Give yourself some grace.
I am in 4 book clubs.
Okay.
David's face.
No, listen, we're fine. But anyway, I love this whole thing. I love that maybe transubstantiation as a concept is so powerful that it was this sort of rote act that Karras has as a priest that finally kicked him into being able to be like, okay, maybe I should do a little bit of this. But then instantly we go and he's like, I don't think she really needs an exorcism, but if you've got one laying around, we should do it for this girl.
Well, hold on. Let me push back on that. I know you're just being funny, David, but let me push back on that a little bit because it's part of my thesis here. So Karras has this moment of realization. I think it's very clear that he has thought of something as he's doing the ritual of transubstantiation, which, again, let me go back to my Catholic trauma background. But what I learned about transubstantiation and the Eucharist in high school was that it is, first of all, for Catholics, transubstantiation means that the bread and wine that you get on Sunday has literally become the body and blood of Christ. So when Jesus is at the Last Supper and he says, take this all of you and eat or drink from it, this is my body, which is being given to you for the everlasting covenant, do this in memory of me. Oh God, what is my brain?
Yeah, just like that was word for word. Very
Girl,
good.
All the words to Mr. Brightside.
Also religious.
I watched a
That's
lot.
what I got hanging around in
Listen,
here.
y'all, I watched a lot of Jesus Christ Superstar growing up.
Of course
Yay.
you did.
Okay,
Oh my
so-
God.
So, my point being, that is kind of like the biggest promise of one's faith to Jesus, the Trinity, everything, is taking the Eucharist. Because it is saying, I am making this covenant with you, O Lord, and I am with you 100% of the way.
Sure.
I think that is such a powerful moment. And for him to then realize, like, I'm doing this because I need to save a little girl, or I'm doing this because the ancient past can only contend with the ancient past, so I have to use magic to defeat magic, essentially. Or, like, maybe I need to sacrifice myself like Jesus did and throw myself into, like, proverbial and literal hell for what I have to do. I think it's just so interesting to see all of those things. And then when we have the meeting that Karis has with the bishop, and the bishop says, do you think this is real? And he says, I really don't know. I think that's a display of Karis saying, I'm willing to take a leap of faith. And it's like
That's
the
fair.
regeneration
That's fair.
of his faith has begun. And it started in that moment where transubstantiation occurred, and the bread that he was working with literally became the body of Christ. So
Right.
I think that's really interesting character-wise. That's very interesting priest-wise. That's very interesting story-wise. And I think it's also just kind of interesting because it's still kind of vague. Like, is he really feeling this faith? Is this like a new regeneration of faith? Like, I just said all this stuff, but maybe I'm totally wrong. And he's actually doing this for some other reason I haven't talked about. But I just think, God, that is so interesting. It's such a good scene.
Well, that's the thing about faith, is that you can never be 100% sure.
Yes. I love that.
So that's the beauty of it.
Mhm.
Completely unrelated, but did you guys already know prior to this moment that Max von Sydow was only like 40 years old in this movie and he was
No.
super hot?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was your notes that made me Google him, and that was a worthwhile decision to make. Well done, makeup team. Not that he doesn't look hot, aged up, like Father May I, but at his actual age of filming this, I was like, wow, should have been on the poster. I mean, I guess he was, but
Yeah.
He was the poster. It was
exactly.
that.
This maybe I would have picked something different. Maybe if I had seen it.
It's
Yeah.
And then my book quote for this section is, for a hesitant moment, the priest stood unmoving. Then slowly and deliberately, as if he had made a decision to do so, he went forward, stepping into the house with an odd sense of ending.
good.
Bars.
That is great. Also,
Oh, good.
foreshadowing, too. Like,
Yeah.
Foreshadowing.
ah,
Yeah.
I would teach this. If I was teaching like high school or college literature, I would use this and like clips and sections of The Exorcist. I wouldn't use the whole book because it's not appropriate, but like it would just be so fun to teach that.
And
Yeah,
you would do that for literature. I would do it. Same thing. I would do it in an art class because the shadow is in the foreground. It's a foreshadow.
That's
Shut-
that's such a great call out.
no,
God,
it's
y'all
not.
are so
No, it's-
smart and right.
Marilee, I have to stop you right there from your very usual and much beloved exclamations of how wonderful we are, because David just fucked us over with a pun.
Oh,
We've all
no.
talked
Yeah,
about
he did.
foreshadowing. This is literally that scene in
Really?
Glass Onion when they're saying it's brilliant, and fucking Daniel Craig is
No,
just like, no, it's
so,
not.
It's
dumb.
so stupid. It's so stupid. It's brilliant. And Daniel Craig goes, no, it's just stupid.
Well, listen,
Hyper,
I
no.
still love you.
You're on
Okay.
thin ice
you
with me.
fucked me over on that one, David.
Oh god.
Anyway.
Listeners, he is waving himself off because he was
He's
crying.
wiping
He's
tears
so proud
because
of
he laughed so
himself.
hard.
And
so
I think
proud of that.
I think you should all boo David in this moment. Just
Boo.
yeah, boo.
As long as one of you is saying boo earns, I'm happy.
All right.
I was saying
Listen.
boo earns.
I would love to posit a Watsonian explanation for Father Marin here
Bring it
in this
on.
moment. They mentioned in the scene where the two of them, the two higher up priests are talking in the diocese. They mentioned that he had previous experience with an exorcism and that it had damn near killed him. I just think a fun Watsonian explanation for why this younger man looks so old here and treated so elderly, as if like the exorcism literally drained the life out of him.
I think
And
it
it
did.
would I think it's very funny to imagine this is a 40-year-old man who acts like he's 80 because he was involved in this exorcism.
I don't think you're far off, Marilee. Like, I do think, first of all, very, very humbled that you would call it a Watsonian explanation, because that's like, whoa. But I do think, like, I think you're right. Like, I think there's enough evidence there that you could totally say, like, yeah, because he is, like, he seems worse off than when we saw him in Iraq. I think the makeup is so good because it does also portray, like, this man is unhealthy. Like, he is not doing well.
My man's got his nitroglycerin tablets, just like my daddy. And he is just a kick away from Satan's butthole. Like,
he's going to Florida?
Can I tell you, again, oh my God, stuff. Can I tell you, again, didn't make it into psychiatry, but every time we mentioned a medication in this film, it was the most 70s medication, whether it was nitroglycerin tablets for a heart condition. Wow. Thorazine, I think, is one of the drugs they gave Regan. Oh my God, my jaw dropped. Even Ritalin, I think probably the first time I watched this, Ritalin was still well within the discourse. So like the 90s, we were still talking about Ritalin. But today, the notion of giving somebody Ritalin is wild.
Really?
Like, it's just not prescribed anymore.
It's all about the Adderall, baby. We're on Adderall now.
Oh, they don't give you Ritalin anymore? That's wow.
It is still prescribed in very unique cases, but not as a standard. But like Thorazine, I'm sure there's still a medical purpose to Thorazine. The idea of somebody being prescribed, a child in particular being given Thorazine, is like electroshock therapy.
Not just that, but also they said we gave her enough Thorazine that she should be out for like 2 days.
Anyway.
There's a whole thing in the book about how, like, her body is literally falling apart.
Yeah.
Like, her medical condition is very dire. And, like, when Father Karras finds out how much, like, Thorazine and then this other medication that sounded like lithium but wasn't lithium, that I can't remember what it's called, but he was like, what the fuck are y'all doing?
Which is what a psychiatrist would say. Like, that is cool to also bring in that part of his career.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a psychiatrist is gonna like do talk therapy and that kind of thing, where the other one does prescribing medication, right? Am I doing that right?
Other way around.
Got it.
So, well, and in the 70s, that distinction has not quite yet erupted, by the way. But today, a psychiatrist has a medical degree, as Tyler mentioned earlier, an MD, and can prescribe medications. A psychologist, in some states, in some circumstances, with some special licensure, can maintain with a supervising psychiatrist. But in general, a psychologist works around other therapeutics, like the umbrella term talk therapy.
Cognitive behavioral therapy. Stuff like that. Which, like, also, I did not include this in our summary because it's a pretty quick scene, but earlier on, Regan is going through hypnotherapy because that was their idea of her going to a psychiatrist. And as David has said, with, it only works in, like, very specific instances and cases.
And it's really good at implanting false memories and, like, doing all that shit.
It's extremely volatile and probably not very effective, but what do I know? I'm not a doctor. Just
You're
the
not?
fact that they... Dr. Watson? Not me. But yeah, no, it's just, it's crazy what they do to her. And it's part of, like, why I think of this movie as also being, like, medical horror, because they just keep on putting Regan through the worst things that they could possibly think of. And even in the 70s, I think some of the things that they do to her are so graphic in terms of, like, in a medical context, would make the audience feel uncomfortable. They were certainly felt uncomfortable and very disturbed by the Spinal Tap scene. Although, what's also kind of scary about it is that was an extremely accurate rendition of a Spinal Tap scene too. So that's, that's it. I think I read that it's actually shown to students in, like, medical school because it's so accurate. But all that,
they had, like, real technicians in the scene doing it, like, not actually to her, but it was, like, actual medical professionals.
Well, I didn't want to bring it up because I thought it was going to deter us, but, like, fuck it, let's just do it anyway. Apparently, the technician, Alyssa, I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. That technician, actually.
He's a murderer.
Yeah, he's a murderer.
A serial killer. He killed, like, 3 gay men. And you can know which one he is because he's got, like, the leather bracelet that he wore specifically because he was, like, a little in thing. He wanted to show other men in the leather community that he was there.
Not using the leather community for evil.
Yeah, only I'm allowed to do that.
God, this movie is, like, everything about this movie is wild.
There's
but
too
like,
much going on.
Oh, God. I don't know. We kind of went into our past here. Is there anything that anyone else wants to talk about with, like, everything going on in this scene? All right, Marilee, take us
rules.
to... It rules, but Marilee, it's your turn. Take us to the exorcism.
Yeah, let's go. All right, listen. The movie has been going at a steady pace for a while now, and this is when it puts the foot on the gas. Marin and Karis prepare for the exorcism, with Marin explaining the nature of the demon. Karis tries to provide Marin with background on the case, but Marin insists that he does not need it. The two priests begin the exorcism. Regan thrashes around and performs physically impossible deeds like levitating. Regan taunts them, specifically invoking Karis' mother to demoralize Karis. Marin and Karis take a break. Marin's health is clearly failing, and Karis goes to see Regan alone. Again, Regan imitates his mother. Karis discovers that Regan's heart is failing. Seeing that Karis has been shaken by the whole experience, Marin tells Karis to stay outside and resumes the exorcism on his own. Karis speaks with Chris and promises that Regan will survive this ordeal. Karis, regaining his confidence, goes upstairs as Lieutenant Kinderman arrives. It's all happening.
It's all happening.
It's all happening.
At the very beginning of this, though, I am obsessed. So okay, yeah, Karis' faith may be like reblossoming, whatever, but tigers and stripes or whatever. Because as Marin comes in and is like, "Let's exercise a bitch," Karis is being like, "Oh, don't you want to know all these things that I did in my like scientific research? Because I am, don't forget, a scientist. And I'm struggling with my faith, but I'm not struggling with psychiatry." And Marin is like, "No, it's a demon. Like, I don't need details. Let's go get the purple scarf thing because that's the demon fighting one. Hurrah!"
The Max von Sydow was one of the best actors we've ever had. Like, the way he said, like, when Karis is saying, "Don't you want to know about the personalities of the different," and then Marin immediately says, "There's only one."
There's only one.
So good. I would immediately sit down if Max Sydow talked to me like that. Just because I was
so
like, "Yes, sir." You're absolutely right. Oh, God. I mean, what can we say about this exorcism, y'all? Like, it is...
It's so much. I can say so much about it.
Please, you're our guest, Alyssa. Talk to us.
My favorite shot in cinema history is the scene where she's like kneeling on the bed, waving her arms, like, and the statue of Pazuzu is there, and it's like lit, where all you can see is her shape. Oh my God, it is just shot of all time. That's art. I want it printed, framed on my wall forever. Mwah.
Yeah.
We all know about the power of Christ compels you. But the line in The Exorcism that hits me is when he says, "And God himself commands."
And
it's just so good.
Oh.
I also regularly, when my cats do things that are silly or like upset me, like puke on my floor or my couch, I go, "Why you do this to me, Demi?"
Yes. Well, and that's the thing, because "Why you do this to me, Demi" is not camp. It is not. We assign it camp now, but it is in the moment a devastating thing.
Heartbreaking.
Oh yeah.
But
the moment where he like physically sees his mother sitting there,
yeah,
oh my God, it's so good.
We have so many great shots in this moment, because that comes in David's next section, but in this section, like, the way they got Karis's face when he sees Regan levitating. First of all, Regan levitating, incredible. Like
though that is one of the scenes that absolutely fucked up Linda Blair.
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Jesus Christ, like, it's so well shot, and everything in this whole scene is so well done. But Karis watching her levitate and the bed moving up also, like, you see on his face the realization, like, I'm dealing with the supernatural. The supernatural is real. And it's, oh God, the facial
acting. His face
acting
goes on a journey.
Yeah, it's perfect.
It's the face of faith confirmed.
Yes.
And it's
oh my God, Alyssa, I actually love that interpretation so much. That fucking rules. Talk about bars.
I've thought about The Exorcist a lot, you guys.
Oh, it's so good though.
It's a movie I've watched like at least 2 or 3 times a year for 20 years.
Well, and that makes the conclusion so much more tragic, because we've dealt with someone who has been struggling with faith, and now it's confirmed and blossoming and even stronger than ever, and yet the manifestation of that, as we'll soon learn, is sacrifice. So plot wise, character wise, acting, mise en scène, it's all doing its job, and it's doing it so well here, and the stakes are raised the right amount in the right increments to give us what we need. It is so very good. I even like the appearance of Kinderman, because it's like, hey, look, the normal army has arrived.
There was real consequences of what is happening.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Exactly.
the tension keeps racketing up and up and up. It's
Which
so
is-
good.
Oh, it's such excellent like screenwriting teaching too. Like this would be a great screenwriting teaching tool because it's just like what is so great in like plot and conflict is when you just add more and more conflict, heightening the stakes even more. Also Kinderman's face in the doorway because Chris only opens up the door and like she purposely puts the chain lock over the door to then open the door so that she can see Kinderman, and all you see is this big evil eye that he's got going on looking inside trying to discover the truth.
Oh yeah,
So good.
I've seen that eye.
There's a scene that it's in the 2000 director's cut edition, but they cut it from the theatrical cut and it's my favorite part of the book where and I find it very beautiful. It takes place, it's when they're taking their break and they're sitting on the stairs. It's beautifully shot in the movie. And if you'll indulge me, I have a quote.
Yes.
Let's go.
But
Please
it's
do.
kind of they're discussing the motives behind Reagan's, like he says, like Kara says, why this girl?
Mm-hmm.
And it says, who could know, answered Marin. Who could really hope to know? And yet I think the demon's target is not the possessed. It is us, the observers, every person in this house. And I think the point is to make us despair, to reject our own humanity, Damien, to see ourselves as ultimately bestial, vile, and putrescent, without dignity, ugly, unworthy. And there lies the heart of it, perhaps, in unworthiness. For I think belief in God is not a matter of reason at all. I think it finally is a matter of love, of accepting the possibility that God could ever love us. No, I tend to see possession most often in the little things, Damien. In the senseless, petty spites and misunderstandings, the cruel, uncutting word that leaps unbidden to the tongues between friends, between lovers, between husbands and wives. Enough of these, and we have no need of Satan to manage our wars. These we manage for ourselves. And yet even from this, from evil, there will finally come good in some way that we may never understand or even see. Marin paused. Perhaps evil is the crucible of goodness, he brooded, and perhaps even Satan in spite of himself, somehow serves to work out the will of God.
Ooh.
Yeah,
That's fucking gorgeous.
I would have loved to
Right?
have experienced. I think the film is pretty perfect. I don't actually think I need a lot more. But hearing Sydow do that would have been really, really cool.
He does part of it. Like I
Okay,
remember
okay.
him. He talks about the vile, the putrescent,
Yeah.
that God could ever love us. Like he does say some of that, but not the whole thing. And it's just
The whole thing-
kiss. It's
the whole
so
thing
good.
was
I want to like
pretty
shake
good.
it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The whole thing was pretty good. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Take us home, David.
All right, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Unfortunately, when Karis comes back in, Marin lies dead on the bed. As Karis tries to resurrect him, Regan giggles. An enraged Karis grabs Regan and begins punching her, screaming for the demon possessing her to go into him. Karis, then possessed, goes to choke Regan, but in a brief moment he regains control, and Karis sacrifices himself by leaping out the window. Karis, like Burke, falls down the stairs. Father Dyer joins a crowd of onlookers and gives Karis his last rites. Sometime later, Chris and Regan are moving out of their house. They meet Father Dyer, and Chris tells him that Regan has no memory of what happened. Still, Regan gives him a kiss on the cheek, recognizing the priest collar. Before the McNeils leave Georgetown, Chris gives Dyer the necklace that Karis wore the night he died. Dyer walks her from the house, but not without one last look at the stairs where Karis died, and we get credits.
What a banger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's so good. I'm sorry. I have.
Don't
think
apologize.
it's
Go, tell us. Give us your feels. I want them.
So like, there's something so triumphant in Karis's death.
Mm-hmm.
In the scream of no. And my favorite thing about the book is that, and partially the movie, they do it a little bit in the movie too, is that you don't necessarily see, like in the book, sorry, my brain is mush. In the book, you hear Davian yell, no, and you hear a crash, but you don't actually see any of that happen in the book. It's just Chris and Sharon downstairs, and they run up, and then they look out the window, and they see him lying at the bottom of the stairs, and they see Father Marin dead, and Regan is crying in the corner.
Right.
And so it's not witnessed. That moment of triumph over evil is not witnessed by anyone except for Regan, who does not remember it. And I find that so poignant. And it speaks to the power of the human brain to protect itself.
Yeah.
That Regan does not remember anything that happened to her.
Yeah.
And like, I can speak to that because like I recently had like, I'm not going to go too much into detail, but like I had a moment where I said, hey, to my aunt, I said, hey, why did we come visit you that one time? And found out why we came to visit that one time. And I was like, I blocked that from
Yeah.
my memory.
Yeah.
And then I in the book, Dyer gives Chris the St. Christopher medal, and I kind of like that better. Like he's like, this is for you
to take with her.
And yeah, so that's a subtle difference that I think made a big difference, made an impact to me.
I think what I like about Dyer holding the medal at the end of this film is the idea that sort of the medal sort of represented the journey that Marin started us with, because that was among the things he found in Iraq, which was sort of hard to understand why it would be there, and why I mean, medal saints, medals of the saints do often look the same, so I don't think we were meant to interpret it was the exact same medal, but having that sort of connective tissue from the last to the end scene, and then Dyer carrying it with him for like the priesthood will continue. I don't know, that did feel equalized to me in some way. It felt balanced. I also do like that Karras, who has had this resurgence of his faith, feeling stronger than ever, but also consumed by the loss of his just now friend, Marin. He pulls out the boxing tool in his tool belt. He will not continue the exorcism. He will beat the demon out of this girl. And I think that is unique for a person who is going through a struggle of faith, who has rediscovered his faith, now has faith as a powerful weapon, but continues to return to other tools that he has been using for so long, was really powerful. In the end, what the faith gave him was the ability to self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
I love that.
We
would also like to have that defenestration window take up one more.
That's 6. This is a solid 6. This was an unquestionable increase. Yeah,
I think see that one happening.
This was perhaps the most famous of the trope of religious horror, people going out windows.
Yeah, I fully thought that you started that counter in the beginning of the month because of this movie.
That is why I started this counter, because I knew we would have this one. Who knew that we were going to already be at 4 when this movie started?
So what I'm hearing is, if you ever run into the devil, do it in a room with no windows, mama.
That's the ticket. That is the ticket, because that guy will put you out a window. Even if it's one of those small ones you put in a bathroom, you're going at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I also... go ahead, Tyler.
No, you go ahead.
I think perhaps we're also meant to think that it's Karras' strength that grants him this moment of lucidity and control. But again, I'm not a believer, but I think that what I bought into with this film was that because of Karras' faith, which had sort of reblossomed, a return of his God was to divinely deliver this power to overthrow Pazuzu for this moment. Because I do think that in Christian mythology, Christian theology,
it's mythology.
Yeah, well,
I think you're right.
Try not to.
If we call every other religion,
I do call everything a mythos. So in the mythos of all of this, we sort of say, like, one of the things that is sort of the basis around this is giving man choice. And this is the divine giving Karras this choice in this moment. Will you carry this demon with you who will kill this young girl? Or will you sacrifice yourself the way that I did, or Jesus did, in order to save her of her sins and absolve her? And for that, I give you this moment of reprieve to make your choice. And that is, frankly, a really, really powerful metaphor for this story to have.
I love that. That's so beautiful. Can I add to that real quick?
Of course.
Because if you are interpreting things that way, I do think the appearance of Father Dyer at the base of the stairs is actually really important. Because by giving him last rites, and we do see that Father Karras is aware in those moments, you see him like clasping his hand in like a yes, like a very deliberate motion. He's able to consent to these last rites, and that's a really big deal because, of course, in the Catholic religion, the idea of ending your own life is a mortal sin, and so because he's able to have those last rites, he's allowed into heaven, I think that if we are saying that he was able to have this choice because of God, that it's like it's explicitly a reward that he's able to do that. You know what I mean?
Right, right. And I do love the attention to detail. So I worked in a hospital. I had to help connect chaplains with families, and very specifically, any motion in the hand or body can be interpreted as consent to last rites and the final confessional therein. And it was very nice. And again, I wouldn't have gotten this on my first viewing. It was only now, after I have had that part of my life pass, that I was like, oh wow, that is very well conceived and conceptualized. That someone who cannot speak or who even looks incapacitated through coma can be given last rites as long as there is some sort of autonomous response that a chaplain or a priest can feel. Really well done.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I don't really have too much to say about this. I think you all did such wonderful jobs wrapping this up. I just think like it works so well. I think the idea that there is like, maybe if there is some sort of divine what's that word? Interference here or intervention. I mean, you could
depending on how you feel about it. Yeah,
my brain is starting to melt. So like, I mean, you could even argue like the whole movie was kind of part of like God knew this was going on because he made sure like the necklace that Marin found in Iraq was there, and it's the same style of the one that looks identical to the one that Karis wears, and it specifically has like Greek on it, and we know Karis is Greek. So I think like that's totally possible, and I think we go all the way back to the start of this episode, and we talked about Pauline Kael said that this was such a great recruitment tool for the Catholic Church. I think that's one way to look at it. I think like not only is it like the devil is real, which is what a lot of people thought after they saw this movie, which is what drove them to church, but I think it also works in a way that says like, listen, if you experience doubt, if you experience struggles with your faith, this is a movie that you can watch and feel like, okay, the devil is real, but so is God. And I think that gives a lot of comfort to Christians, not just Catholics, but Christians in general, because the idea that there is the devil but no God is terrifying on an existential level for them. I think it is also the encapsulation of our theme of the more things change, where the things that happen at the end of this movie, everything kind of works out well so that we have a good ending to this movie, like good triumphs over evil. And in the 60s, that was not guaranteed. Even in the 70s, like you see a lot of 70s cinema, quite a lot of it has evil triumphing over good. Same thing in the 60s, and like Rosemary's Baby, I mentioned that earlier, but also things like Chinatown. That's a famously downer ending to a movie, but
Chinatown.
Yeah, that's where that comes from. And we won't dig too deep into the spoilers for that because it's not really relevant here, but just the idea that like there is an insurmountable evil out there and some things just cannot be resolved. And I think that is something that is very real to what we experience today in 2025. But with The Exorcist, of all things, we can see a response to that, which is powerful good still exists to confront powerful evil. And that could be a good thing because that's a good thing to know and something that we should all remember, even when things seem really terrible. But it's also still kind of like saying like, okay, you could trust all the systems of power and the status quo because everything is meant to work out the way it does. And isn't that so nice? And you should, give a hug and a kiss to your local priest. Like, it's a very, it's like I said earlier, messy things make it more interesting for us to talk about. And I think The Exorcist, for being so well executed, the ideas that it espouses are messy. And I think that is part of what makes this such a wonderful movie.
Agreed.
We love mess.
We do love mess.
We love mess.
All right, well, before we wrap up, let's revisit some of the questions that brought us here together. Was this horror?
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that even hearing folks sort of vacillate on this, I guess my biggest justification is all of the filming techniques. Everything that was done with a camera screams horror. We sort of breezed past it. I did it sort of as a joke at the beginning, but the desire to get the breath to be shown for these characters during the exorcism was, we were in a place where we could add this in post, which is just the way that we do this now. And so they had to refrigerate the set to -30 Fahrenheit. That is to get that effect to display, that's horror. That is it, camera horror was happening all day long.
Yeah, those poor actors. Oh, poor Linda Blair, tiny little Blair,
in nothing but a nightgown. Yeah, whereas you look at photos of the crew and they're all bundled up in fucking parkas, and then poor Linda Blair, who's literally like 12 years old when this movie is being made.
Yeah,
they just
not cool.
Put her in a freezer.
Not cool.
Awful.
Okay. Well, that's one aspect of it that we ask in every episode. But now that we've had our conversation, do you all have any other thoughts about this film being queer?
Nothing additional. I definitely can see the allegorical connections that could be made to queer identity.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Plus, of course, we have the on-screen textual representation of Father Dwyer, obviously a gay man we've already discussed.
Obviously.
Yeah, that man likes men.
Oh my god, I
Yeah.
never even got the chance to mention it, but he said that his idea of heaven is that he's playing in a fucking nightclub on the piano forever. Like fucking Liberace.
Yay.
Gay.
Listen,
So
Gay.
gay.
But we
So
love him.
gay.
And-
Going my way,
and you know
my
what?
way is gay.
He's a hero in the end, so we love it. And
A queer hero.
he's a hero. Yeah.
In a horror
Yeah.
movie. Love that. So,
love it.
any other final thoughts for this extra long episode? Anything you wanted to point out, or any other conversations that you want to have?
I'm not particularly familiar with the extended Exorcist situation or the TEU. I don't think I'd give that enough ease.
TECU, the Exorcist Cinematic Universe.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, but it's also
but there is a-
television, so it's like the.
It's the extended universe.
I'm
yeah.
just drawing out
Ah.
how the length of this episode. Keep going, Marilee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I there is a TV series that I think that everyone should watch, and you should.
Oh, it's great and super gay.
It's so gay. It's literally textually
Oh,
gay.
so
it's so
gay.
good. Gina this is some spoilers for the first season. But like the reason why I'm bringing it up now here at the end very specifically is because it is a stealth sequel to this movie. It is not revealed until about halfway through the season, and it is a reveal. It is a big deal. But Gina Davis, who plays the mom in the show, is revealed that she's Reagan from this movie, and it's like a gag. It's so good. The whole show's great. You should watch it. Please watch it.
Yeah. My only final
Yeah.
thoughts, because we didn't get a chance to talk about her a ton, but the character of Sharon was always very compelling to me. This sort of erstwhile nanny for Regan, who is the one who invites Karis to see the writing on...
And very specifically doesn't want Chris McNeil to know that that's going on.
Yeah. And so we spent a lot of time talking about some of the men who could be coded queer, but I thought Sharon had sort of a queer identity, especially in her relationship with Chris, that I think was fun to see when I got to see, and then was very sad at the end when Chris is sort of like, oh, are you going to come with us? And Sharon just being like, no, this was really fucked up and I'm traumatized. I will not be coming with you.
Even though I still care about you. I like the way that they hug at the end there.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was just, we didn't have a chance to talk about it. There was no really good place that it fit. But it was really nice. It was fun to see.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen The Exorcist 3,
Have not.
please watch it.
It's
It
good.
is so good. Return of Father Kinderman.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Great.
And Brad Dourif in like a stellar role. Brad Dourif is in
Oh my
it.
god.
Well,
And if you don't know who Brad Dourif is, he's Chucky, and also he's fucking Wormtongue from Lord of the Rings.
Yes, he also
Mhm,
plays
mhm, mhm.
one of my favorite one-off episodes of the first season of The X-Files.
Oh, that's such a good
Yes.
episode. He is
Beyond the
also
Sea rules.
he is also in an episode of The Pit in like a very short 2 scenes. The TV show The
Yeah,
Pit
it's a
on
tiny
Max.
cameo.
Because his daughter
Um,
Fiona is one of the main characters in The Pit.
Yes, and
Yeah.
as a fun other Child's Play reference, she actually plays her dad a couple different times in the extended Chucky universe, which I think is very fun. Because they wanted to have
this. Oh, sorry, go.
No.
I was just gonna say this is the Brad Dourif corner.
Yes, it's very important that y'all know that this man's incredible, and also his daughter is an incredible actor, and the two of them have worked together before in a really fun way, because she plays the serial killer that he is in Chucky when he's a younger man in like flashback stuff in like some of the later Chucky movies, and also the Chucky TV show, which I think is so fun.
That's super cool.
Yeah, it's great.
We're gonna talk.
Yeah, Brad Dourif is in The Exorcist 3. It's fucking awesome, but we pretend The Exorcist 2 doesn't exist.
What Exorcist 2? It's a weird Kingdom Hearts style like numbering thing. It just goes from Exorcist to Exorcist 3.
you can't. But they would never do that, Marilyn. They only add numbers. They will never subtract numbers.
And decimals.
Well, yeah, this was truly and honestly, what a fantastic time. Alyssa, thank you so very much for joining us. Please plug where folks can find you and all of the great things that you do out there in the world.
So you can find me on Blue Sky at Silver Scream, although it's usually my other half, Courtney, who's at the helm of that. We're on Instagram at Silver Scream Pod, and we can be found on almost every place that you can find podcasts, but for whatever reason, Apple Podcasts hates us. But it's 2025 and we're not using Apple Podcasts anymore anyway.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I truly love the Silver Scream. I think what you guys do is incredible work. Well, thank you all so much for listening to this episode. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Let the power of connecting on social media compel you to check us out on Instagram and Blue Sky at Fear Coded Pod.
And of course, this podcast is a proud part of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective. If you'd like to listen to more queer media podcasts, check out the full roster of Glitterjaw shows at glitterjaw.com. And join us next time as we wrap up Excommunicapril and consider the nature of demons, angels, and the faith in between them as we attend Midnight Mass. But for now, we will simply say goodbye.
Bye.
Oh, could you die a little more quietly?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll do my best.
Power of Christ compel you.